Chapter 519. The Fantasy Spirit City's trade fair only lasted for 7 days, but the auction held in the Fantasy Spirit Palace would last for 3 days. 3 days without sleep or rest was a simple task for cultivators. 2 days had already passed, and with the sale of nearly 200 items, the auction was nearing its end. More and more valuable items appeared, and their grades were getting higher and higher. Their prices were also climbing higher and higher as well. These 200 auction items ranged from spirit pills to pill furnaces, from magic treasures to forbidden treasures, from cultivation methods to divine abilities and dharma spells, and from spiritual objects to all kinds of legacies. It could be said that there was everything one could think of. Moreover, every auction item could be said to be the best in the cultivation world. The appearance of Jade Nectar Flowing Goblet and the announcement of its conditions caused Tian Qin Laozu's expression to brighten. Tian Qin Laozu currently had 2 types of pills that fulfilled these conditions. One was used to repair and nourish damaged blood vessels, and the other was used to quickly heal injuries within the body. It even had the effect of increasing one's cultivation. These were the Jinling Spirit Water Meridian Nourishing Pill and the Bell Cauldron Pill. The combination of these 2 pills was often a blessing in disguise for heavily injured cultivators whose cultivation was on the verge of collapse. At least, Taoist Master Xian San was a living example. However, what greatly reduced Tian Qin Laozu's excitement was that the Jinling Spirit Water Meridian Nourishing Pill was actually in the hands of Lu Xianping. Thinking of Lu Ping, Tian Qin Laozu felt inexplicably irritated. Not only was this person the proud disciple of that person, but he was also constantly opposing him. As a senior, Tian Qin was repeatedly held back and could only watch as this person humiliated him in front of the rest of the sect. This kid was actually so lucky. Even the Jinling Spirit Water Meridian Nourishing Technique, an unorthodox alchemy technique that was almost lost in the cultivation world, was discovered and successfully cultivated by him. This was really strange. This kid clearly cultivated a water attribute cultivation method, but he actually entered the realm of alchemy and even triumphantly became one of the few alchemy masters in the sect. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ping cultivated a water-attributed cultivation method, how could he have inherited the inheritance of spirit water alchemy? Lyra Laozu shook her head gently, as if she wanted to put these thoughts aside. At this time, there were already more than 10 storage bags on the auction stage. It was obvious that many people were interested in this jade nectar. Tian Qin Laozu thought for a moment, then put the 3 Spirit Water Meridian Nourishing Pills and the 3 Bell Cauldron Pills into 2 jade marrow boxes, then put them into the storage bag and brought them to the booth. After Dong Laozu checked the pills in the storage bags one by one, he picked out 3 storage bags and returned the rest. In the building, the ancestor of the Sky Zither sect saw that the storage bags had not been returned, which was clearly within her expectations. However, what surprised her was that there were actually 2 storage bags left behind. Dong Laozu pointed at the 3 storage bags and said, "According to the medicinal effects, the pills in these 3 storage bags are the most effective, and they are also what the auctioneer of the Jade Nectar urgently needs. However, this makes it a bit difficult for me to distribute them, so I ask the 3 of you to continue bidding. The highest bidder wins." As soon as Dong Laozu's voice fell, Yuan Feixiang from the Central Plains Yuan family, who was in the 40th room, asked in surprise, "In this cultivation world, there are pills that are comparable to my Yuan family's healing pills. I wonder if Mr. Dong can tell this junior the names of these 2 pills?" Of course, this junior has no intention of offending the dignity of the fantasy city. I am just curious. Dong Laozu smiled faintly and was about to refuse, but he was startled for a moment. He pointed at one of the storage bags and said with a smile, "Although Mr. Yuan comes from the number 1 family in the Central Plains and is experienced and knowledgeable, you cannot underestimate the heroes of the world. Your family's 7 Extreme Emperor pill is naturally a healing pill, but the pills in this storage bag are the most effective and can heal the injured person's injuries the fastest." Oh, this is a coincidence. The most effective medicine. Could it be that the injured person just happened to meet an enemy here and got the antidote by chance? Yuan Feixiang's ridicule was a bit unbridled, but for some reason, Dong Laozu and the others did not give him a warning. Humph, the Yuan family is really famous. I, Chu Yuan, do not believe in such nonsense. That injured person may not have been injured by me, but the spell that injured the auctioneer was from my Chu family. How could it be? Could it be that Mr. Yuan wants to seek justice for that person? In room 37, a cultivator who didn't sound very old said in a lazy manner, "So it is the green sea snake's Chu family." Yuan Feixiang seemed to be a bit serious this time. However, after knowing Chu Yuan's identity, Yuan Feixiang ignored the provocation of the green sea snake's powerhouse. Instead, he asked Dong Laozu, "I wonder what is in these 2 jade essence boxes? How can it be comparable to the elixir of our Yuan family?" Dong Laozu smiled and said, "One of the elixirs in these 2 jade essence boxes is also an effective elixir. However, compared to fellow Chu's elixir, it takes too long to take effect. It may take several years. Therefore, the other party attached another healing elixir in the other jade box. Although this elixir is not completely effective, it can play an excellent role on the basis of the first elixir. Moreover, after the injury is healed, it can also greatly improve the cultivation of the injured." Oh, there is such a magical elixir. It seems that the overseas cultivation world is also a land of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Feixiang is too shallow. Yuan Feixiang still had a proud tone, but he seemed to be a lot more serious. He still said, "I am willing to bid an extra 500 high-grade spirit stones for this spiritual item. I heard that the Middle Earth is full of heroes, and the Yuan family is also very famous. Plus, your family is the only Thunder Element Peng bloodline in the training world. So, why would you want this mid-rank Earth-class spirit item? I will bid 600 high-grade spirit stones. How about young Master Feixiang give this spiritual item to me?" The Emerald Sea Spirit Snake Clan cultivator who had introduced himself as Chu Yuan in room 37 spoke in an unhurried manner. One was a wealthy family of the Middle Earth, and the other was a monster race. The two of them confronted each other in the auction hall, as if there was no one else present. Dong Laozu did not know why, but he just pretended not to see it. Brother Chu's words are not appropriate. The Thunder attribute Peng bloodline can only be inherited by the direct descendants of the Yuan family. The Yuan family has many branch bloodlines and affiliated families. This jade liquid-flowing goblet is exactly what a good friend of mine needs. Please forgive me for not wanting to give it to you. Moreover, there is another family participating in the auction. Even if I want to give it to you, Brother Chu will have to ask this family, right?" Yuan Feixiang spoke with fervor and assurance. He opened his mouth and increased the additional spirit stones by 100. In the 24th room, Daoist Xian Zhu looked at Lyra Laozu with apprehension, especially after hearing that the last bidder was actually the Yuan family and the green sea snakes. Daoist Xian Zhu's heart became more and more uncertain. At this time, Lu Ping knew that if Lyra Laozu did not have anything unexpected, there was an 80% chance of getting this spiritual item. Competing with the green sea snakes and the Yuan family in the cultivation world with spirit stones was an extremely unwise approach. Sure enough, after Lyra Laozu thought for a moment, his hands drew a circle in front of him, and then a black hole appeared in the void. Lyra Laozu dug into the hole and took out a jade essence box. After opening it, there were 3 purple pills the size of a finger. At first glance, Lu Ping thought that Lyra Laozu took out 3 bell cauldron pills again. He was a little surprised at first, but after a careful look, Lu Ping quickly noticed the difference between the two. The luster in the 3 purple pills seemed to be more abundant than the bell cauldron pills. The pill fragrance that filled the room was also much stronger than the bell cauldron pills, and the fragrance was also different. At this time, because of Yuan Feixiang's words, the attention of the auction venue was focused on the storage bag of the third force that was participating in the auction. They wanted to see if the third force would bid for this spiritual item under the attack of the 2 major forces. At the same time, they also hoped that the third force would be like the green sea snakes and the Yuan family, announcing themselves to satisfy the curiosity of the cultivators in the auction venue. It would also add a little extra fun to the auction that would last for 2 days. However, to everyone's disappointment, the third force that was participating in the auction did not make a sound. Just when everyone was disappointed that this force was going to give up under the pressure of the green sea snakes and the Yuan family, they saw the small teleportation array on the jade table in front of Dong Laozu light up again. Dong Laozu's spirit was also lifted. However, under everyone's expectant gaze, what appeared in front of everyone was still a jade box. After Dong Laozu recovered from his shock, he opened the jade box. 3 purple elixirs the size of a thumb, similar to the elixirs in the previous jade box, were revealed. What is this? Could it be that the third force wants to use the number of elixirs to determine the winner? What's the use of that? This kind of top-grade elixir used for healing injuries is mostly used by cultivators who are half a step into the Dharma manifestation stage and above. A cultivator can only use 3 at most before it loses its medicinal effect. What's the use even if you give them 1,000 elixirs? There were also cultivators who were proficient in elixirs who refuted, "No, these 3 elixirs are different from the previous 3. Perhaps they are other elixirs." Let's see how Dong Laozu explains it. As Dong Laozu examined the 3 elixirs in front of him, he also listened attentively, as if someone was communicating with him through telepathy. After a while, Dong Laozu nodded slightly and smiled. So that's how it is. These 3 elixirs are elixirs that the bidder has improved on the basis of the previous 3 elixirs. Not only are the improved elixirs more effective for healing injuries, but they are also very effective for cultivators, especially those in the late core forging stage, to break through bottlenecks. In terms of the quality of the elixirs, these 3 elixirs are completely Dharma manifestation elixirs, but they can be consumed by core forging stage cultivators. This is already the work of an alchemy grandmaster. In this way, there is no doubt that the Jade Goblet auction this time will be the winner. Compared to the Spirit Stones, the auctioneer obviously values the cultivation that will be delayed due to healing injuries. Chapter 520. In the attic, Jinren Xiansan was quite surprised and praised. "Senior sister, you actually upgraded the Zhongding pill to the Dharma stage, and it can still be used by a core forging stage cultivator. This method is already comparable to Uncle Tianlu's creation of the Zhongding pill that caused a sensation in the North Sea training world. That Dong Laozu's claim of being an alchemy grandmaster is really not a lie." Lu Ping was also quite impressed by Lyra Laozu's pioneering work. Lyra Laozu smiled and said, "These years in the East Sea, my alchemy skills have not improved much, but this little bit of achievement is still standing on Master's shoulders. Junior brother, you are flattering me." Just like how an alchemy grandmaster could become an alchemy grandmaster by refining a core forging stage elixir, refining a Dharma stage elixir could naturally also be called an alchemy grandmaster. However, a real alchemy grandmaster needed to independently create a core forging stage elixir to prove that they were passed down to future generations. Alchemy grandmasters often also needed to create a Dharma stage elixir to be called a real alchemy grandmaster. The Zhongding pill was originally a kind of healing elixir for a half-step to the Dharma stage. After Lyra Laozu upgraded the Zhongding pill to the Dharma stage, she could barely be called an alchemy grandmaster. However, she lowered the threshold to the core forging stage elixir without affecting the grade of the elixir. This was even more rare and valuable, and she deserved to be called an alchemy grandmaster. So far in the auction, Jinling had only obtained 2 kinds of mid-earth level spiritual items and 1 high-earth level spiritual item. Among them, the jade flowing goblet that Zhenren Xianzhu obtained could barely be regarded as a treasure comparable to a high-earth level spiritual item due to its uniqueness. Other than that, there was only a Dan Cauldron treasure restriction and Lu Ping's 3 invisible spiritual restrictions. The auction had already been going on for 2.5 days, and as many as 200 kinds of treasures had appeared. Among them, it was not that there were no spiritual items that Zhenling looked down upon. On the contrary, Lyra Laozu could be said to have frequently bid, but the harvest was very little. In the final analysis, it was because compared to the great sects of the Eastern Sea, Zhenling's foundation was too weak. He could only watch as suitable mid-earth level spiritual items were taken by other sects and cultivators. Compared to Li Xuanru, Xianzhu, and Xianyu who had obtained suitable spiritual items, the other 4 seemed much more disheartened, especially Zhenren Xiantian. After the flying parasol wood, there was originally a high-earth level spiritual item with a wood attribute, but the conditions of the auction were even more harsh. Lyra Laozu was also very regretful that she did not even have the chance to bid before the auction was won by the 28th Pavilion. At this time, Lyra Laozu's expression was focused on the item that Dong Laozu carefully held in his hand on the auction stage. It looked like a piece of dirt that could shatter into powder at any time. This item was extremely familiar to Lu Ping, because he had once obtained it from an Earth Attribute High Earth level spiritual item, the Dark Jade Stone, during the Northern Seas Alchemist Gathering. This piece of dirt that was as soft as dirt was a piece of growing soil, a treasure that was comparable to a heaven-level spiritual item. Last time, Lu Ping had only obtained a fist-sized piece of growing soil, but it was enough to completely transform the spirit herb garden that Lu Ping had opened up in the Golden House. Many precious spirit herbs were growing very well in the Golden House, and a small number of transplanted 500-year-old spirit herbs had already begun to mature and be harvested. Even 2 gold nuts had matured ahead of time, and were used by Lu Ping to refine gold adamantine pills. This piece of growing soil was almost twice the size of the one that Lu Ping had obtained last time. However, it looked like it had been severely weathered, and was not as solid as the one that Lu Ping had obtained last time. After Dong Laozu finished introducing the growing soil, he carefully placed the piece of growing soil on the jade table, as if he was afraid that he would break it. Just as Dong Laozu had clearly stated the conditions and starting price of the growing soil, and was about to announce the start of the auction, the piece of growing soil that had been placed on the jade table in perfect condition suddenly disintegrated without any warning, and suddenly split into 4 pieces of different sizes. This unforeseen event caused Dong Laozu to forcefully swallow back the words that he was about to say. The cultivators in the auction house were clearly shocked by this unforeseen event, and many busybodies even started to shout and boo in the auction house. The value of a strange item like the growing soil, aside from its size, the most important factor was whether or not it was intact. Although these 4 pieces of growing soil of different sizes were still the same big piece of growing soil when combined together, due to the disintegration, its value could no longer be compared to the previous piece of growing soil. Dong Laozu's expression was uncertain, and after a moment, his expression changed, as if he had received some sort of hint. He then laughed dryly and said, "It is such a coincidence. I did not think that this kind of thing would happen to the old man. Since that is the case, then we might as well separate these pieces of growing soil and auction them separately." In room number 24, even though Lyra Laozu coveted this piece of growing soil, she did not have much hope that she would be able to obtain it. However, this sudden turn of events caused many cultivators in the auction house to feel extremely regretful, but Lyra Laozu's eyes suddenly lit up, as if she had seen a ray of hope. Of the 4 pieces of growing soil, the first to be auctioned was the smallest piece. Sure enough, the disintegrated pieces of growing soil did not attract the attention of the people suspected to be from large sections. Lyra Laozu decisively made a move, and used 8 pieces of top-quality spirit stones to obtain this piece of growing soil. Immediately after, the second piece of growing soil was auctioned. Lyra Laozu did not directly call out a price, but instead used a jade slip to indicate the bidding price, and then sent it through a teleportation array. This way, no one would notice that room number 24 was still participating in the auction. The second piece of growing soil, which was only slightly larger, was finally won by Lyra Laozu with 7 top-quality spirit stones and 500 top-quality spirit stones. The 2 smallest pieces of growing soil added together were not even a third of the entire piece of growing soil. However, after the third piece of growing soil was auctioned, Lyra Laozu decisively stopped bidding and did not participate in the auction anymore. As expected, the price of the third and fourth pieces of growing soil soared, directly breaking through the 2,000 top-quality spirit stones. The people from the previous rooms that had successfully obtained the growing soil repeatedly raised the price to a sky-high price, but in the end, it was won by room number 28, which had always been the strongest in the auction house, at a high price. This caused Lu Ping and the others to be dumbfounded, and at the same time, they were filled with admiration towards Lyra Laozu's previous methods. Daoist Xian San and Daoist Xian Su even suspected that the cultivators from the Crystal Palace were in room number 28, because since the beginning of the auction, the one who had obtained the most treasures, and had repeatedly paid the highest price, was the one who had obtained the most treasures. The appearance of the growing soil seemed to be just the beginning of the perfect curtain call of this auction, and immediately afterwards, the real craziness of the auction began. For the low-grade Heaven Step Water Attribute World Spirit Treasure, Magnificent Golden Liquid, the first condition of exchange is also a low-grade Heaven Step Metal Attribute Spirit Treasure, Taibai Stone. If you can't exchange it, then use it to exchange for some top-quality spirit stones, and don't take out the top-quality spirit stones as an eyesore. The appearance of the Heaven Step Spiritual Treasure seemed to have suddenly ignited the passion of all the cultivators in the auction house. Previously, a high-grade Earth Step Spiritual Fire, Flame of the Sea, had appeared, and it had been auctioned for a price of 30 top-quality spirit stones. Admittedly, this was because world spirit fires were often used in the cultivation world for alchemy and refining, so its value was higher than the same grade spiritual treasures. But the price of 30 top-quality spirit stones, even Lyra Laozu had to say that this price was a bit too high. Lu Ping looked at this flame of the sea's heart, and his eyes also lit up. Because this world spirit fire was bred in the depths of a volcano, it was contaminated with a trace of a gentle aura, and it was suitable for all the best flames for alchemy. If Lu Ping wanted to advance to Alchemy Grandmaster, although the Eastern Purple Chi Flame was still enough for him to use, but the effect of a mid-grade Earth Step Spiritual Fire on alchemy was not obvious. If he wanted to be helpful to Alchemy Grandmaster, then Lu Ping had to at least find a high-grade Earth Step Spiritual Fire. However, the path of obtaining it from the auction house was basically closed to Lu Ping. Lu Ping had killed several enemies as spoils of war, and after a narrow escape, he was lucky enough to obtain 4 top-quality spirit stones. For the current Lu Ping, 30 top-quality spirit stones was still a height that he could not reach. The high-grade Earth Step Spiritual Fire of the Sea's Heart was finally auctioned by the cultivator in room 35. However, the moment the low-grade Heaven Step Spiritual Treasure appeared, this price was shattered by the surging price. 42 top-quality spirit stones. In an auction of this level, unless the cultivator in the room introduced himself, Dong Laozu, who presided over the auction, would generally not disclose which room the cultivator came from. Even if everyone knew which room was bidding, it was difficult to guess which sect was in the room. Room 28 was still fierce, and for the first time, the bidding price of this auction was raised to more than 40 top-quality spirit stones. The cultivator of the Crystal Palace? Sure enough, he is rich and overbearing. But this magnificent golden jade liquid is also coveted by several juniors of the old man. Today, I have no choice but to lose money, so let's add 3 top-quality spirit stones. This time, the old man is really bleeding a lot, and later, I will definitely get back at that old bastard. A helpless voice came from room number 11. 48 spirit stones. The cultivator in room 28 was still silent, but he was very determined to raise the price. Humph, the Crystal Palace is a big family. Do you want to buy all the treasures in this auction? The old man does not believe in this. 50 top-quality spirit stones. As this exceptionally valiant voice continued to ring out from room 11, the entire auction hall cheered in unison. This was the highest price ever recorded for a spirit stone in this auction. However, as the cheers faded away, the fierce voice from room number 11 sounded again. This time, it was in a dejected tone. What a loss! What a loss! 50 top-quality spirit stones. This time, the old man must have been extorted by those old bastards. I feel so sorry for the old man. The old man has nothing better to do. Why did he shout at those bastards of the Crystal Palace? Haha, from the tone, it sounds like friend Kong Ji of the Kong family, but you seem to be complaining to the wrong person. The voice came from room 6, and Lyra Laozu looked surprised and said, It is actually Yuan Guang of the Crystal Palace. Which force is in room 28? Besides the Crystal Palace, who else has the ability to bid for so many treasures? Immortal Xian Su asked the question that almost everyone in the auction venue had. Lu Ping's attention was not on room 28, but he murmured, Kong Ji, surname Kong. Could he be a Dharma adept of the Kuan Fish clan? Chapter 521. Just which force was in the 28th room? After Yuan Guang Laozu announced his identity in the 6th room, all the cultivators in the auction venue looked at the 28th room floating in the air with puzzled eyes. However, this made Dong Laozu slightly displeased. He coughed and said, Since fellow Taoist Kongji has bid 50 top-quality spirit stones, is there anyone else who wants to bid? It would have been better if Dong Laozu hadn't said this, but as soon as he said this, some of the cultivators who hadn't paid attention to the 28th room also turned their attention to the 28th room, waiting to see if this force would raise the price again. Unfortunately, the 28th room seemed to have fallen silent. Not a single sound came from it. Tianqin Laozu had a thoughtful look on her face and muttered, "Could it be them?" Both Taoist Xian Su and Taoist Xian Sen asked in confusion, "Does Senior Marshal Sister know who is in the 28th room?" Lu Ping was startled. Taoist Xian Su and Taoist Xian Sen might not know, but he knew that Tianqin Laozu had once occupied a high position in the boudoir. Could it be that Tianqin Laozu thought that the 28th room was the boudoir? With this thought in mind, Lu Ping's heart was suddenly enlightened. Now that the boudoir pavilion was established in the Eastern Sea, it was naturally in urgent need of a batch of treasures to strengthen the sect's foundation and establish a more reasonable cultivation system. Hence, the boudoir pavilion's crazy buying of treasures in the auction was also a reason. However, the fact that this boudoir had such a strong financial strength also greatly surprised Lu Ping. It could be seen that before the boudoir completely emerged from the cultivation world of the Eastern Sea, the hidden forces of the boudoir must have been enormous. Thinking of the Li family on the Three-Family Island, it was unknown how many other peripheral families like the Li family in the Eastern Sea were supplying large amounts of cultivation resources to the boudoir. The golden essence jade nectar finally fell into the hands of Kongji Laozu in the 11th room, which made the cultivators who had been expecting the 28th room to bid a higher price somewhat disappointed. In the auction hall, there were naturally people who guessed that it was the boudoir, but there were also people who thought that it was the heavenly moon sect from the Middle Earth that had not made a move. However, these guesses and discussions all disappeared with the appearance of the second low-grade heaven-rank spirit item, Yulan Adamantine. This was a type of low-grade heaven-ranked spirit treasure that was nurtured in the Yulan River, the second largest river in the Central Plains. After the Yulan River flowed into the Eastern Sea, it solidified and was distributed within a 10,000-kilometer radius around the mouth of the Yulan River. This sort of spiritual item rarely appeared in the overseas cultivation world. The area within a radius of 5,000 kilometers from the mouth of the Yulan River was the territory of the cultivation world of the Central Plains. Once Yulan gold essence was discovered, it would usually fall into the hands of the cultivators of the Central Plains. The Yulan Adamantine was a low-grade heaven-tier metal attribute origin spirit, but more importantly, it attracted the attention of the cultivators in the auction hall because the Yulan Adamantine was a low-grade heaven-tier metal attribute origin spirit. 3 Spirit Forging Pills. Lu Ping knew that the Spirit Forging Pill was famous in the North Sea, but he didn't expect it to have such a huge reputation in the overseas cultivation world. What kind of joke is this? 3 Spirit Forging Pills? If the failing sect was still around, this low-grade heaven-ranked spirit object would be worth the price of 3 Spirit Forging Pills. But now that the Fei Ling sect has been annihilated, the Spirit Forging Pill recipe has been lost for more than 4,000 years. Even if there are a few Spirit Forging Pills that have survived, who would be willing to take them out? That's right. I think that if the auctioneer doesn't have any other conditions, this heaven-grade spirit item might not be sold. It might not be sold. After all, it is a heaven-grade spirit item. There is an 80% chance that there are other conditions that have not been announced. Great Ancestor Dong looked at the auction venue in the pavilion that was suspended in mid-air, and he could not help but smile bitterly. However, he still continued to say, "Of course, there is a backup plan. The auctioneer intends to exchange for some pills that can accelerate the smelting of heaven and earth spirit items, increase the final grade of the golden core, and help cultivators break through to the Dharma stage." In fact, the Spirit Forging Pill could satisfy all of these 3 conditions. Furthermore, the Spirit Forging Pill was undoubtedly the best choice for each of the 3 conditions. However, if the Spirit Forging Pill didn't appear, there were other possibilities for these 3 conditions. In the pavilion, Spiritual Master Xian Su's face was very serious as he stared at the spirit item on the display. After a long time, he let out a long breath and turned to Tianqin Laozu. "Junior Sister Tianqin, is there any possibility of this spirit item being auctioned in our sect?" When Tianqin Laozu heard Spiritual Master Xian Su's words, she naturally knew that Spiritual Master Xian Su wanted this spirit item. Spiritual Master Xian Su was now an expert at the 9th stage of core forging. Although he still lacked the necessary accumulation to form the golden core, this heaven-grade spirit item was even more difficult to find than a high-grade earth-grade spirit item. As long as there was a chance of obtaining it, there was no reason for him to let it go. Tianqin Laozu thought for a while and took out 3 jade boxes from the air. She said, "This pure jade orchid seems to have 3 conditions, but they are all related to each other. In the end, they are all for the sake of breaking through to the Dharma phase. Under the situation where the spirit forging pill doesn't appear, each sect actually has their own secret pills, especially the big sects like the Crystal Palace. Their resources are so deep that I, Jinling, can't compare at all. Hence, I really don't have any confidence in obtaining it. I can only try my best." Spiritual Master Xian Su smiled. "I can accept this. If I get it, then I'm lucky. If I don't, then that's fate. Junior sister, you just have to try your best." Tianqin Laozu nodded and pointed to the 3 jade boxes. In the first jade box are 3 minor forging pills refined by junior nephew Lu. These pills can only be consumed by late core forging cultivators. The effect of refining heaven and earth spirit items is negligible, but in the world of cultivation, it is still an extremely rare top-grade pill. I have to say, junior nephew Lu, you are really good. Tianqin Laozu looked at Lu Ping indifferently. Lu Ping didn't mind. He chuckled and said, "Thank you for the compliment, uncle." Tianqin Laozu ignored Lu Ping and pointed to the other jade box. The 3 pills in this jade box are sect's secret pills that can help in breaking through to the Dharma phase. These pills actually have to be combined with a secret technique of our sect in order to maximize their effect. They are mostly targeted at those who have condensed a 6th grade golden core and are unable to directly advance to the Dharma phase. For those who have condensed a 7th grade golden core and above, they are not very helpful in advancing to the Dharma phase. This last pill, Tianqin Laozu pointed to the 3rd jade box and said, is a secret pill in my boudoir, called the Misty pill. This junior martial sister was also involved in the creation of this pill, so I know the pill formula. When I left my chambers, I obtained one of these pills. This pill is very useful for cultivators when they condense their gold core. These 3 pills can be considered to be quite specific to fellow Taoist Dong's 3 conditions. Whether or not it will be successful will depend on the final opinion of the auctioneer. The auctioneers were also participating in this auction. It was just that they didn't want to reveal their identities. Therefore, during the auction, many top-quality treasures were bartered. Therefore, Patriarch Dong needed to communicate with the auctioneers frequently and listen to their opinions. Spiritual Master Xian Su nodded and said, "I'll leave it to fate." "Thank you, junior sister." Tianqin Laozu was about to place the 3 jade boxes on the small teleportation array when Spiritual Master Xian Sun suddenly said, "Senior sister, please wait." When Tianqin Laozu looked over in astonishment, she saw Spiritual Master Xian Sun take out a jade marrow box from his storage magic tool in a very serious manner. It could be seen that the item in the box was not ordinary. Spiritual Master Xian Sun opened the jade marrow box, and inside it was a huge spirit pill that was about an inch in size. He heard Spiritual Master Xian Sun say, "Although Senior Sister's Misty pill is precious, there is only one. This Snow Domain pill is also useful for raising the rank of a golden core, so I'll send it along with Senior Sister's Misty pill. This way, the chances of getting the Jade Orchid Gold will be higher." Without waiting for Spiritual Master Xian Sun to finish speaking, Spiritual Master Xian Su hurriedly said, "No." Spiritual Master Xian Su turned his head and said to Spiritual Master Xian Sun, "Junior brother Xian Sun, this Snow Domain pill is something that you obtained from Laozu's cave in the Snow Domain. It is a treasure that you will use to condense your golden core in the future. How can you use it on this?" Spiritual Master Xian Sun said with a carefree smile, "I know my own situation. Although I was lucky enough to reach the 9th layer of the core forging realm by consuming the Bell Cauldron pill, my foundation has become more and more unstable. If I want to solidify my foundation, reach the peak of the 9th layer of the core forging realm, and prepare to condense my golden core, It will be impossible without at least 200 years of polishing. Besides, senior sister Tianqin has already grasped the pill recipe for the misty pill. When the time comes, I just need to ask senior sister to refine a few misty pills, and the problem of condensing my golden core will be solved. Spiritual Master Xian Su was a little moved. When he turned to look at Tianqin Laozu was looking at the snow domain pill. When he heard Spiritual Master Xin San, he said, I have heard of the name Snow Domain Laozu in the past. This Snow Domain pill is indeed brilliant, but the Misty pill cannot compare. Junior brother Xin San, you have to think carefully. There is no pill recipe for the Snow Domain pill. If you give this one away, I'm afraid there won't be a second one. Spiritual Master Xin San said with a smile, since I have taken it out, there is no reason to take it back. Spiritual Master Xian Su said with gratitude, regardless of whether it succeeds or not, I will remember junior brother's favor. Just as Tianqin Laozu placed the Snow Domain pill on the small teleportation array, he heard Lu Ping suddenly ask, Martial Uncle, with these pills, how confident are you in exchanging for the pure jade orchid gold? Tianqin Laozu looked at Lu Ping in surprise, but he still sighed and said, at most, there is only a 20% chance. What if I exchange it for this item? Lu Ping laughed, took out a jade essence box from his storage ring, and placed it on the stone table. Chapter 522. What if I use this? Lu Ping placed a jade quintessence box on the stone table. The spirit sealing rune engraved on the jade quintessence box shone brightly. It seemed to indicate that the item in the box was quite amazing. Tianqin Laozu was not polite at all. She knew that since Lu Ping took out this item, he must have some confidence in his heart. So, she directly took the jade quintessence box on the stone table and wiped it with her hand. The spirit sealing rune on the jade quintessence box temporarily lost its effect. Tianqin Laozu opened the jade quintessence box, revealing 3 purple pills with a hint of red inside. Tianqin Laozu was startled because this pill looked quite similar to the minor forging spirit pill in the other jade box. Tianqin Laozu's eyes narrowed. Holding the jade quintessence box, a golden flame suddenly appeared in her hand. The temperature in the pavilion rose sharply. Fortunately, Lu Ping and the others were high-level cultivators, so they naturally wouldn't care about this little bit of heat. Lu Ping knew that this was probably a method that Tianqin Laozu used to test the medicinal properties of the pill. Sure enough, Tianqin Laozu's eyes suddenly shone brightly. She looked at Lu Ping and said, that day you laughed on Jingzha Island, was it because you refined this pill? Jingzha Island was guarded by Celestial Phenomenon Laozu. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu was highly respected in Zhenling. Therefore, there were very few people on Jingzha Island who laughed unscrupulously like Lu Ping did after successfully refining the new minor forging spirit pill. Moreover, Lu Ping was in a very excited mood. In the process of laughing, his Zhen Yuan unconsciously burst out, causing more than half of Jingzha Island to echo with his laughter. Lu Ping chuckled, but he was a little embarrassed and said, yes, I was too excited that day, so I was a bit presumptuous. Tianqin Laozu coldly snorted and said, refining this kind of pill. So what if you are more presumptuous than that day? Tianqin Laozu's words caused Lu Ping to be stunned. He saw Tianqin Laozu put away the first jade quintessence box that contained the minor forging spirit pill and put the jade quintessence box that Lu Ping handed over inside. The small transmission array flashed and 3 jade quintessence boxes appeared on Dong Laozu's jade table. Inside the pavilion, because Daoist Xian Su was paying attention to the Yulon gold essence, he couldn't help but ask, Martial Nephew Lu, what kind of pills are they? They are even more wondrous than the minor forging spirit pills you refined before? Lu Ping smiled and was about to answer, but Daoist Laozu interrupted him. Senior Lu Ping spirit, Lu Ping said. Lu Ping, Lu. Lao Lu Lu Lu. Ping, I Su, I Lu. Is this clear? Daoist Xian Su immediately reacted. He patted his head and said, worry, worry, worry. Tianqin Laozu turned to Xin Tian and the others and said, today, regardless of whether we can win the Yulon gold essence or not, Martial Nephew Lu's pill cannot be leaked. This includes your family and masters. When I return, I will report this matter to the Laozu and the sect. If I find out that any information about this pill is leaked, not only will I not forgive you, but the Laozu and the sect will not let you off either. Are you clear? Lu Ping looked at Daoist Xin Tian and the others with surprise. Daoist Xin Tian and the others promised not to leak today's matter. Tianqin Laozu turned to Lu Ping and said, although martial nephew Lu's pill is far from the real spirit-forging pill, it is the most successful imitation of the spirit-forging pill in the cultivation world in thousands of years. If the opportunity is right, it is best to give this pill to the sect for safekeeping. The sect will naturally reward you. Lu Ping smiled and said, you're right, Martial Uncle. In fact, Martial Uncle Fornax has already discussed this matter with me, but it's about the small forged spirit pellet recipe. I will naturally hand it over to the sect when the time is right. Tianqin Laozu nodded and didn't say anything else. At this time, in the auction hall, Dong Laozu had already finished appraising the pills in the 20 or so storage bags. At the same time, his lips moved from time to time as if he was discussing something with someone else. In the end, he returned most of the storage bags, leaving only 3 storage bags on the jade table. Daoist Xin Su saw that the teleportation array on the stone table hadn't been activated. It was obvious that Jinling's pills had been approved by the auctioneer. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. However, Tianqin Laozu's expression became more and more serious. He turned around and said, I'm afraid that the 3 sects will compete in the future. If there are 3 spirit-forging pills here, then we can naturally bid for the gold of Yulan. However, the 3 sects pills are at most 2/3 of the gold of Yulan. In the end, I'm afraid we will still have to use spirit stones. However, there aren't many high-grade and top-grade spirit stones that the sect has collected for this auction. The strength of the other 2 sects is unknown. If we meet the Crystal Palace or other large sects, I'm afraid we won't be able to handle them. Daoist Xin Su and Daoist Xin Sin had already given Tianqin Laozu a total of 400 high-grade spirit stones and 4 top-grade spirit stones to Tianqin Laozu when Tianqin Laozu was bidding for the growing soil. When spiritual master Xin Su heard this, he lowered his head and rummaged through his storage pouch, gathering another 50 high-grade spirit stones. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although Jinling's sect's cultivators were much wealthier because of the large spirit stone mine and the medium spirit stone mine that they secretly occupied, they also became more extravagant when it came to cultivation. Thus, in the end, they still weren't able to accumulate much wealth. Even the spirit stones that spiritual master Xian Su and spiritual master Xian Sin had gathered for the soil of breath were because the 2 of them knew about the auction in Fantasy Spirit City in advance. Daoist Xian Sun took out another top-grade spirit stone and another 20 high-grade spirit stones. It was obvious that he had poured everything into his storage bag. Tianqin Laozu sighed and also took out 6 top-grade spirit stones from his storage bag. He said, I only have these. In the auction hall, Dong Laozu took out the pills from the jade boxes. Because this time, Tianqin Laozu didn't have the same request as Lu Ping. Dong Laozu didn't keep the bidding pavilions a secret. He directly said, the 3 sects that will be participating in the final auction of the Yulan Gold are pavilions number 6, 24, and 28. Please begin the final bidding. Pavilion number 6 was naturally the Crystal Palace. There was no need to doubt its strength. Lu Ping clearly saw that when Dong Laozu mentioned pavilion number 28, he pointed to one of the 3 jade boxes. It contained the same ethereal pills that Tianqin Laozu had taken out earlier. Tianqin Laozu clearly saw it as well. He frowned slightly. There was no doubt that pavilion number 28 was the location of the boudoir. However, the boudoir might be able to link it to Tianqin Laozu from the ethereal pill in Jinling's jade box. In fact, other than the minor forging spiritual pill and the snow domain pill that Lu Ping had improved, Jinling's other pills were the worst among the 3 sections. At this moment, Yuan Guang Laozu, who was in pavilion number 6, was the first to raise the price. He bid 500 high-grade spirit stones. The boudoir immediately responded and increased the price by 100 high-grade spirit stones. In pavilion number 24, Daoist Master Xintian first took out 250 high-grade spirit stones. After thinking for a moment, he took out a top-quality spirit stone from his storage magic tool. This was the one that Tianlin Laozu had given him. Taoist Master Xianhui also took out 150 high-grade spirit stones. The couple, together with the top-quality spirit stone, made up a total of 500 high-grade spirit stones. At this time, the Crystal Palace had raised the price to 800 high-grade spirit stones. The boudoir immediately wanted to suppress the Crystal Palace, offering 850 high-grade spirit stones. Taoist Master Xuanyu and Taoist Master Xianju were already out of high-grade spirit stones because of the previous bidding for the heaven and earth spiritual treasure. Li Xuanru, on the other hand, had saved 300 high-grade spirit stones because Lu Ping had taken out the forging heart pill and defeated all the other bidders. However, these 300 high-grade spirit stones were given to Li Xuanru by Li Xuanru, Zhao Xuanji, and Wang Xianjing. Taoist Master Xianbei scratched his head and then put a storage bag on the stone table. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "This disciple is short of money. I only have 150 high-grade spirit stones. All of them are here." Taoist Master Xuanchu smiled and said, "Thank you, martial nephew." Taoist Master Xuanzu also took out 190 high-grade spirit stones. Obviously, she also did not have a single high-grade spirit stone left. Tianqin Laozu calculated for a moment and said, "I have now collected 1,900 high-grade spirit stones. Whether I succeed or not will depend on heaven's will." At this time, the price of the auction had already exceeded 1,200 spirit stones. The Crystal Palace and the owner of room number 28 seemed to be fighting with each other, neither giving way to the other. Every time they raised the price, the previous 100 spirit stones would be raised to 200 spirit stones. The people in the pavilion intentionally or unintentionally left out Lu Ping. This was because Lu Ping had taken out 500 high-grade spirit stones in one go when he bid for the invisible sword communication treasure. Everyone thought that Lu Ping did not have many spirit stones on hand. Moreover, when Lu Ping bid for the Azure Sea Jasper bead and the improved minor forging panacea, although he had made Tianqin Laozu lose face, these were all real contributions that Lu Ping had made to the sect. Even if Lu Ping did not say anything now, no one could say anything. However, Lu Ping still rubbed his chin and said with a smile, "How could Martial Uncle not remember me? Actually, I still have 1,000 high-grade spirit stones on hand." At this time, the boudoir had rebid 1,500 high-grade spirit stones, once again suppressing the Crystal Palace. Tianqin Laozu originally wanted to use the 1,900 high-grade spirit stones in her hand to gamble, but Lu Ping's words made her swallow the bid. Yuan Guang Laozu of the Crystal Palace's voice sounded, 1,700 high-grade spirit stones. Tianqin Laozu did not care about the Crystal Palace's bid. She looked at Lu Ping with bright eyes and asked, "How much do you have?" Everyone else also had an expression as if they had seen a ghost. Spiritual Master Xian San was happy at first, but then he frowned and asked, 1,000 high-grade spirit stones in addition to the previous 500 high-grade spirit stones. Martial nephew Lu, where did you get so many spirit stones? Did you get into trouble? Lu Ping handed a storage bag to Tianqin Laozu and said with a smile, "I only robbed a group of robbers' treasure house. I didn't leave anything behind. Martial uncle, don't worry." Actually, at this time, Lu Ping still had 200 high-grade spirit stones and 4 high-grade spirit stones. Lu Ping naturally could not bear to part with the 4 high-grade spirit stones. He had to use the 200 high-grade spirit stones to support his cultivation for a period of time, so he could not use them. 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. With Lu Ping's 1,000 high-grade spirit stones, Tianqin Laozu suddenly had confidence. She opened her mouth and raised the bid to 2,000 high-grade spirit stones. Everyone thought that the 24th room, which had been quiet for a long time, had given up its bid due to the strong bidding of the Water Crystal Palace and the 28th room. Unexpectedly, the Water Crystal Palace and the 28th room did not make any bids for the time being. Chapter 523. Lyra Laozu managed to get the pure Yulon gold for 2,700 high-quality spirit stones. Lyra Laozu threw the remaining 200 high-quality spirit stones to Lu Ping and said, "This time, I owe the boudoir a favor." Just now, In the three parties bidding, the boudoir of room 28 had been suppressing the Crystal Palace. However, after Lyra Laozu added 2,000 high-quality spirit stones, the Crystal Palace took the opportunity to suppress Shenling. Fortunately, the boudoir seemed to have set its sights on the Crystal Palace. As long as the Crystal Palace bid a higher price, the boudoir would bid a higher price again. Lyra Laozu immediately realized something. After the boudoir bid, she stopped bidding. The Crystal Palace had no choice but to raise the price to 2,300 spirit stones, but was suppressed by the boudoir with 2,400 spirit stones. After the boudoir raised the price to 2,600 spirit stones, the Crystal Palace seemed to have reached their limit and stopped bidding. At this time, Lyra Laozu once again called out a price of 2,700 spirit stones. The boudoir didn't follow up either. It was obvious that she was specifically targeting the Crystal Palace. Many of the cultivators in the auction hall were surprised that the 24th room had obtained the Yulan gold. At this moment, quite a few cultivators had already guessed that the 28th room was the boudoir of a large sect that had recently risen in power in the Eastern Sea. The 24th room, which had always kept a low profile, was now the subject of much discussion. The cultivators who had previously guessed that the 28th room was a cultivator from the Heavenly Moon sect began to guess that the 24th room was actually a cultivator from the Heavenly Moon sect. After obtaining the pure Yulan gold, Zhengling, who had run out of spirit stones, could be said to have completed his mission of participating in this auction ahead of time. He could only sit and watch the auction until the end. However, the appearance of heaven-grade spirit items did not stop there. After the water attribute golden essence jade liquid and the metal attribute jade orchids gold essence, the earth attribute, wood attribute, fire attribute, wind attribute, and ice attribute heaven-grade low-grade spirit items appeared. Each of them was raised to an extremely high price. The intense competition at the scene was a feast for the eyes of the Zhenling sect cultivators who had already lost the right to compete. Among them, the appearance of the wood attribute low-grade heaven-rank spirit object had caused Taoist Master Xian Sen's eyes to be filled with greed. However, the conditions of the auction were not achievable before Zhenling's sect obtained the Yulan gold essence. Thus, Taoist Master Xian Sr. The heaven-class low-grade heaven-class spirit fire once again broke the record of the auction with spirit stones. The price of 60 high-grade spirit stones caused the 5 people in the auction hall to challenge the dignity of the 6th pavilion, the Crystal Palace. This time, the Crystal Palace finally revealed its ferocious face as the #1 sect in the overseas region. After the pure Yulan gold, there were 5 heaven-class low-grade heaven-class spirit items, and the Crystal Palace alone obtained 3 of them. Although the boudoir repeatedly raised the price, it was suppressed by the Crystal Palace with a thunderous momentum. The starting price was 500 high-grade spirit stones, which made the cultivators in the auction hall exclaim in satisfaction. It also made people once again see the domineering power of this giant sect in the cultivation world. The remaining 2 spirit items were won by the Heavenly Moon sect, which had been keeping a low profile. As for the other spirit item, no one knew which sect had won it. Although the boudoir had been very active in the auction of the 7 heaven-class low-grade heaven-class spirit items and had repeatedly caused trouble for the Crystal Palace, they had not won a single spirit item. Just when everyone thought that the auction was about to come to an end, 2 old men with white hair and beards suddenly appeared on the auction stage. Their inner yuan was surging, and behind them, there seemed to be faint roars of tigers and phoenixes, which caused the entire auction hall to fall silent. Dong Laozu bowed slightly to the 2 of them, as if he was very respectful to them. Tianqin Laozu's eyes shone brightly, and she said in a low voice, "Mid-Dharma adepts." The 2 mid-Dharma adepts took 2 steps forward and formed a triangle with Dong Laozu, surrounding the jade table in front of Dong Laozu. While everyone was still a little confused, the small teleportation portal on the jade table suddenly flashed with light. Just when most of the adepts had not clearly seen what was being teleported in through the light, Dong Laozu had already grabbed a jade essence bottle in his hand. This jade essence bottle had been refined by an expert into a transparent color, and there was only a drop of water the size of a third of a fist spinning nimbly inside. Just when many of the adepts in the auction hall were looking at the drop of unknown liquid in the jade essence bottle in confusion, A green light suddenly flashed in the eyes of Lu Ping, who was sitting in the pavilion. A strange color flashed across Lu Ping's face. The strange look on Lu Ping's face did not escape Tianqin Laozu's attention. Tianqin Laozu smiled slightly and asked, "Disciple Lu, do you recognize this item?" Lu Ping did not expect Tianqin Laozu to ask such a question in such a friendly manner, and everyone else in the pavilion also had a strange look on their faces. Lu Ping was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head and answered, "I have not seen this item before, but I have seen a similar description in the Jade Scroll that Elder Fornax had hidden. It seems that this item is the famous Thousand Dew of Wonder, but it looks like there is too little of it." Tianqin Laozu nodded slightly and said, "Disciple Lu's view coincides with mine. It seems that there is an 80% chance that it is this item. However, the Thousand Dew of Wonder is different from other world treasures. It can only be used to refine a gold core, and it must reach a certain amount. However, every drop of this item is extremely precious. Although it is not enough to refine a gold core, just drinking it can increase one's lifespan by 10 years. If it is in the hands of a great alchemist, it can easily refine a 20 or even 30-year longevity pill." Not only had Lu Ping seen the Thousand Dew of Wonder, but he also had a portion and a half in his hands. He was also well aware of the information that Tianqin Laozu had told him. However, the Thousand Dew of Wonder was too important. Lu Ping could feel that the entire cultivation world, at least the North Sea and the East Sea, seemed to be secretly eyeing the Thousand Dew of Wonder as well as the spirit-forging pill refined from it. This kind of secret treasure was naturally the safest to only be known by himself. After listening to Tianqin Laozu, Lu Ping did not have time to think about why Tianqin Laozu's attitude towards him had suddenly changed. He quickly said, "Disciple understands." Tianqin Laozu nodded with satisfaction, seemingly quite pleased with Lu Ping's attitude. She no longer spoke and instead listened to Dong Laozu's introduction in the auction venue. The appearance of the Thousand Dew of Wonder naturally caused the auction to reach its climax near the end. Although there was only one drop, it still found everyone in the auction venue fighting for it. Of the 40 pavilions, except for the 24th pavilion where Zhenling was located, almost all of them participated in the competition for the Thousand Dew of Wonder. In the end, the Crystal Palace raised the bidding price to 40 top-grade spirit stones in one fell swoop, shaking off the majority of the participating sects and cultivators in one fell swoop. The Boudoir Pavilion, the Yuan clan, and the Green Sea Snake Chu clan began competing. In the blink of an eye, the bidding price broke through the barrier of 50 top-grade spirit stones, greatly surprising Zhenling and the others. It must be known that the magnificent golden jade liquid, a low-grade heaven step spiritual treasure, was only sold for 50 top-grade spirit stones before it was taken by Kongji Laozu. Although the Thousand Dew of Wonder was a mid-grade heaven step spiritual treasure and had many wonderful uses, it was still inconceivable for a single drop to be sold at such a high price. The Yuan clan and the Green Sea Snake clan withdrew their bids one after another, leaving only the Boudoir Pavilion and the 20th Pavilion still competing with the Crystal Palace. Lyra Laozu looked pensive. Suddenly, she turned to Daoist Xiansan and asked, "Junior Martial Brother, you said that when the Crystal Palace's Yuan Guang was in the North Sea persuading the sects to unite against the demon race, he told Xianling's sect about the various precious spiritual herbs needed to refine the spirit-forging pill?" Enlightened Master Xiansen knew what Ancestor Skychin was thinking about, so he quickly said, "That's right. Not only Xianling's sect, but even my sect, Shui Yin Pavilion, and Ocean Flame sect have also obtained the names of these precious spiritual herbs." Lyra Laozu's eyes lit up and said, "But in the end, Crystal Palace only chose Xianling's sect as their partner?" Daoist Xiansen hesitated for a moment and said, "Senior Martial Sister, you mean that Xianling's sect has a part of the secret of refining the spirit-forging pill, which made the Crystal Palace choose Xianling's sect in the end? But this conclusion is a little too narrow. How could the Crystal Palace choose their representative in the North Sea cultivation world just because of a pill recipe?" Lyra Laozu smiled but didn't continue the conversation. At this moment, Yuan Guang Laozu's furious voice suddenly came from the auction house. "Xiao Yuan, don't think that I don't know that the person inside is you. I, Yuan Guang, will now bid 60 top-grade spiritual stones. If your boudoir really wants this drop of Wonder Jade Nectar, as long as you can offer one low-grade spiritual stone higher than 60 top-grade spiritual stones, the old man doesn't have to give up this item. Hearing Yuan Guang Laozu say Xiao Yuhuan's name, Lyra Laozu's expression suddenly changed, as if she was saying, "No wonder, so it's her." When Lu Ping looked over, he saw that when the Crystal Palace was bidding for this drop of Wonder Jade Nectar, the boudoir had been playing the role of raising the price. It was as if they knew that the Crystal Palace would definitely win this drop of Wonder Jade Nectar, and they kept raising the price to provoke the Crystal Palace. Yuan Guang Laozu finally couldn't bear it anymore. Many cultivators in the auction venue then confirmed that the boudoir in room 28 was actually the boudoir of a newly rising sect in the North Sea. After a long time, a female voice sounded from room 28. She giggled and said, "Fellow Yuan Guang is too impatient. The Wonder Jade Nectar's rarity is comparable to a heaven-rank upper-grade spiritual object, and its magical value is really no less than a heaven-rank upper-grade spiritual object. My boudoir naturally participated in the auction with the intention of buying this item." Finally, Yuan Guang Laozu couldn't bear it any longer. Many cultivators in the auction venue confirmed that the boudoir in room 28 was actually the boudoir of a newly rising sect in the North Sea. After a long time, a woman's voice sounded out from room 28. She giggled and said, "Fellow Taoist Yuan Guang is too impatient. The Wonder Jade Nectar's rarity is comparable to a high-grade heaven-step spiritual object, and its value is also no less than a high-grade heaven-step spiritual object. My boudoir naturally has the intention of buying this item." Ancestor Origin Light finally took the drop of myriad Wonder Jade Nectar in his hand. Just as Ancestor Dong was about to announce the end of the auction, Xiao Yuhuan suddenly said, "However, there is one thing that this little sister must remind fellow Taoist Origin Light and everyone present. My boudoir has already decided to establish a sect on Carefree Island 1 year from now. At the same time, my boudoir will also change its name to Carefree Faction. I ask that everyone spread this news throughout the entire cultivation world during this auction. 1 year from now, my Carefree Faction will be waiting for you at the Carefree Saber." The Grand Fantasy City Grand Auction continued for 3 days before finally coming to an end. The many cultivators in the auction venue also began to leave. The oil lamps hanging outside the 40 floating pavilions in the sky began to extinguish one after another. In the 24th pavilion, Lyra Laozu hesitated for a moment. Then, she turned to the crowd and said, "First, you can all exchange the spirit stones that the sect has yet to use in Fantasy City for spirit grasses. Afterwards, you can return to Awakening Hibernation Island. After the auction, Laozu has important matters to discuss with the various sects, so there is no need for you to wait for me." With that, Lyra Laozu's hands pulled outwards, and a portal was pulled open in the void. Lyra Laozu stepped inside and disappeared. Sage Xian Su was in a very good mood after obtaining the Jade Orchid Gold. Although he owed a great deal of debt, the sect would still repay the majority of it for him. Thus, he smiled and said, "Let's go. If we delay any longer, we will attract the attention of others. We must quickly spread out the spirit stones in our hands so that we can purchase spirit grasses that are over 1,000 years old in Fantasy City and bring them back to the sect." The teleportation formation in the pavilion had already lit up. When everyone reappeared, they were already in the Fantasy Spirit Palace with many other cultivators. Lu Ping and the others exchanged glances, then mixed into the crowd and walked out of the Fantasy Spirit Palace, heading towards Fantasy City. After leaving the Fantasy Spirit Palace, Lu Ping took out a sound transmission magic sword and said something to it. Then, the sound transmission magic sword turned into a stream of light and disappeared into Fantasy City. Lu Ping wandered around Fantasy City for a while. Then, a stream of light streaked across the sky from the east of Fantasy City, then hovered above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping took the sound transmission magic sword and scanned it with his divine sense. Then, he strode towards the east of Fantasy City. At the entrance of a spirit herb shop, Qi Lianying and Yin Xianchu watched as Lu Ping walked over. He tossed an interspatial pouch to Lu Ping and complained, "Why is this auction going to take so long? If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have accepted your offer." I also wouldn't have had to deal with something on Soundwave Island. Lu Ping took the storage bag and scanned it with his divine sense. Then, he stored all the 1,000-year-old spirit herbs into his storage magic tool. Hearing Qi Lianying's words, he couldn't help but frown. What's wrong? Did something happen on Soundwave Island? Do you need me to return as soon as possible? Qi Lianying shook his head. From the news from the Red Eagle, it seems that someone visited Soundwave Island. The other party doesn't have any malicious intent, but the Red Eagle can't make the decision. So, they hope that I can return as soon as possible. Lu Ping nodded and relaxed. He turned to look at Yin Xianchu. Yin Xianchu said, I also have to return to Soundwave Island to train in seclusion. After inheriting the Ice Dragon Pearl, my training has improved greatly. I'm afraid I'm already on the verge of breaking through to the 5th level of the core forging realm. Lu Ping's expression lit up. That's good. With the Ice Dragon Pearl in hand, you'll probably beat that Xian kid this time. At the mention of Ji Xianchu, Yin Xuanchu's usually cold expression seemed to melt a lot. However, it was only for a moment before it froze again. He said in a low voice, in these 3 days of the auction, many people from Fantasy City have arrived. These people are all in a hurry, hiding their heads and covering their tails. We don't know what they're up to. Some local cultivators from Fantasy City went to investigate, but unexpectedly angered one of them. A core forging cultivator was killed with a wave of his hand. The aura he released was that of a Dharma adept. Hearing this news, Lu Ping's curiosity was piqued. He asked, do you know what these people's motives are? Where did they go? Yin Xianchu shook his head. These people's training is at least at the late core forging realm, and there are even quite a few Dharma adepts like Lao Zu. If I hadn't refined the Ice Dragon Pearl and obtained a few secret techniques that allowed me to secretly investigate some things, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to find out. The cultivators of the various sects in Fantasy Spirit City had secretly sent people to investigate these mysterious cultivators who had entered Fantasy Spirit City one after another, but the people who investigated kept disappearing. In the end, they could only determine that these cultivators seemed to have left Fantasy Spirit City in the east and flew straight to the sea region east of Fantasy Spirit Island. East? What is the east of the fallen mystery land? Isn't that the territory of the demons? Yin Xianchu shook his head and said, on the east side of the island where the 2 large spirit veins are located, there seems to be an extremely perilous sea. The reputation of the perished secret domain is mostly due to this perilous place. What do you mean? When the 3 of us entered the 7-star cave heaven, I heard that you went to the Golden Valley? There was no need for Lu Ping to hide this matter. He said directly, that's right. It's 100 times more dangerous than the Golden Valley. Yin Xianchu looked at Lu Ping's surprised face, but he still looked calm. He continued, that sea and the islands in it are called the Fallen Archipelago. According to the older cultivators in Fantasy City, the myriad poison sky above the Fallen Archipelago will weaken every hundreds or thousands of years. There is no pattern to this weakening. This time, it happened to coincide with the auction of Fantasy City. I'm afraid those suspicious people are heading for this dangerous place. Lu Ping thought about what had happened in the Golden Valley and couldn't help but ask, is there any other saying about the Fallen Archipelago? Yin Xianchu nodded and said, that's right. Although the Great Fallen Archipelago is a place of great danger, it's also a place where treasures gather. The exotic flowers and plants there have been covered by the myriad poison vault for a long time, so they're naturally very precious. However, even though the myriad poison vault has weakened, the threshold to enter the Great Fallen Archipelago is still extremely high. Dharma ancestors can naturally enter, but for core forging stage cultivators, only those late core forging stage cultivators who have special techniques and are not afraid of the corrosion of the poison can enter. Lu Ping suddenly remembered that Lyra Laozu had left first after the auction. The weakening of the myriad poison sky and the opening of the Fallen Archipelago were big events that all the sects who participated in the auction of Fantasy City knew about. Lyra Laozu might have left because of this. Although Fa Xiang Laozu could enter the Fallen Archipelago, it was still very beneficial for Dharma phase alchemists and cultivators who were proficient in poisonous cultivation methods and secret skills. Celestial Phenomenon Laozu's strength was naturally above Lyra Laozu's, but in the Fallen Archipelago, celestial phenomenon Laozu's strength might not be as good as Lyra Laozu's, who was an alchemist grandmaster. This might be another reason why celestial phenomenon Laozu insisted that Lyra Laozu replace him to participate in the auction of Fantasy City. Chapter 524. After sending off Qi Lianying and Yin Xianchu, Lu Ping thought for a while, then took out another sound-transmitting sword and said something into it. After that, he released the flying sword and left the east side of the Phantom City, flying in the general direction of the Fallen Islands. Tens of thousands of miles east of Phantom Spirit City, Lu Ping stared at the endless gray sky in front of him. His eyes flashed with inexplicable shock. Was it the power of the heavens and earth that formed such a magnificent and mystical land? Or was it the work of an almighty being? Lu Ping could not help but think of a legend that Yin Xianchu told him before he left the Phantom City, which was spread among the high-level cultivators of the East Sea cultivation world. According to the legend, when Zhao Daoren, one of the seventh patriarch of creation, and Taoist Gue joined hands to open up the overseas cultivation world, Taoist Gue was lazy and liked to sleep. After opening up the South Sea cultivation world with Zhao Daoren, he drifted on the sea and fell into a deep sleep. Zhao Daoren had no choice but to open up the East Sea cultivation world and the North Sea cultivation world by himself. However, because he was too tired, the North Sea cultivation world he opened was the narrowest, which was also an important reason for the barrenness of the North Sea. Zhao Daoren used up most of his potential in opening up the two cultivation worlds by himself, and he was even seriously injured. Therefore, Zhao Daoren found Taoist Gue, who was drifting on the sea and sleeping soundly, and asked him for a few healing pills. Unexpectedly, Taoist Gue, who was in a deep sleep, mixed a poisonous pill with the pills he gave to Zhao Daoren. Zhao Daoren did not know what was going on. After taking the pill in seclusion in the fallen secret land, his injuries worsened. In the end, he spat a mouthful of bloody phlegm near the current Fallen Islands, which covered the sea and the islands, forming the current Fallen Islands. Many years later, Zhao Daoren returned to the Fallen Mystery Land with his injuries under control. He was going to deal with the poisonous blood sputum he had spat out. However, not only did Zhao Daoren's bloody phlegm contain the highly toxic essence of Taoist Gue's poisonous pill, but Zhao Daoren himself was also a master of poisons. His saliva was highly toxic to begin with. With the combination of these two factors, the entire Great Poisonous Archipelago and the surrounding sea area turned into a poisonous world. Just as Zhao Daoren was about to deal with it, he realized that the bloody phlegm he had spat out that year contained the essence of poison, but it also contained the enormous vitality of Zhao Daoren. Over the past hundreds and thousands of years, even though the area of the sea that had been contaminated and eroded by the highly toxic pollution had continued to expand, because of the special region it had formed, it had also nurtured many rare cultivation resources. In the end, Zhao Daoren did not eradicate this poisonous area. Instead, he set up this magnificent heavenly poison wall to completely seal this area in order to prevent the poison from leaking out. Due to the influence of the toxic fog, the myriad poison firmament wall was usually pitch black. Only when the toxic fog in the myriad poison Great Archipelago weakened and the toxic fog in the sky became thinner, would the myriad poison firmament wall turn gray. Although Lu Ping did not believe that the appearance of the Great Poisonous Archipelago was due to Zhao Daoren's bloody phlegm, the appearance of the heavenly poison wall made Lu Ping somewhat believe that it was the work of a powerful being. However, Lu Ping really could not believe that Taoist Gue, one of the seventh patriarch of heaven creation, would give Zhao Daoren the wrong pill just because he was sleepy. Perhaps this was a conspiracy specifically aimed at Zhao Daoren. When this idea appeared in Lu Ping's mind, even Lu Ping himself was shocked, but he immediately denied it. After all, according to the legend, this heavenly poison wall was set up by himself after his injuries were contained. A golden shield suddenly lit up around Lu Ping's body, but he did not step into the heavenly poison wall. Instead, he clenched and opened his hands, and a golden bubble appeared in his hands. Lu Ping blew on it with his mouth, and the golden bubble floated up from Lu Ping's palms and flew into the heavenly poison wall. Lu Ping stared at the golden bubble intently. Just as it flew into the heavenly poison wall, the small bubble suddenly trembled violently, and a faint layer of gray stained the golden bubble. A moment later, the bubble burst with a pop. Seeing this, Lu Ping lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then stepped into the heavenly poison wall. The golden gang qi around him became brighter and brighter, tightly wrapping Lu Ping's body in it. Lu Ping felt like he was a snowman suddenly standing under the intense sunlight. Just as Lu Ping stepped into the heavenly poison wall, Lu Ping's Zhenyuan suddenly leaked, and the Zhenyuan around him was almost corroded by the poisonous fog around him. Fortunately, Lu Ping's Zhenyuan was strong, and he reacted quickly. The golden Dan in his body suddenly shook, and the Zhenyuan around him was retracted. The dim golden myriad meteoric poison star gang became brighter than before. The poisonous fog that was corroding his gang qi was like a swallow flying into the forest and was refined by the myriad meteoric poison star gang, making the myriad meteoric poison star gang even more tyrannical. However, Lu Ping's Zhenyuan consumption was much higher than when he was supporting the myriad meteoric poison star gang before. Lu Ping calmed himself down and used his divine sense to explore the surroundings, but he suddenly found that his divine sense was greatly restricted. Originally, Lu Ping's divine sense was no less than a late-stage core forging cultivator, but now he could barely explore the surrounding situation within a mile. Moreover, Lu Ping could faintly perceive that there seemed to be a hidden poison in the poisonous fog. Not only could it limit the spread of the divine sense of the cultivator, but it was also slowly corroding the cultivator's divine sense. The density of the poisonous fog in the fallen archipelago had dropped to its lowest point. Normally, no cultivator would dare to enter it. No wonder this place was known as a forbidden area by the high-level cultivators of the East Sea. After initially adapting to the environment here, due to the restriction of the poisonous fog on the divine sense and the slow corrosive effect, Lu Ping could only rely on his vision to slowly fly through the poisonous fog. Fortunately, after Lu Ping cultivated the 3 pure true pupils, he had refined 4 kinds of heaven and earth strange treasures, which allowed Lu Ping to see further and clearer than other cultivators in the poisonous fog. At this moment, Lu Ping seemed to suddenly discover something. His flying figure paused in the poisonous fog, and then stopped moving. In the misty poisonous fog, Lu Ping's figure was faintly discernible. In a trance, there seemed to be 2 faint cyan lights streaking across from time to time. Lu Ping's eyes suddenly looked down to the left, and his right hand made a slash. A golden sword light flashed, and a hoarse cry was cut off as soon as it sounded. A black, filthy blood splashed up, but it was blocked by the meteoric poison gang, and a hissing black smoke rose. It seemed that the black filthy blood also contained a terrible corrosive poison. After that, the plop sound of a heavy object falling into the water came from below Lu Ping's figure. There were only 2 sounds, and it seemed that 2 pieces of something that had been cut fell into the sea one after another. The golden scale sword circled in front of Lu Ping, and then floated above Lu Ping's head. Lu Ping's eyes flickered with cyan light, and he was secretly horrified. What a powerful poisonous beast. Just the poison contained in this filthy blood is far more poisonous than the surrounding poisonous fog. It almost corroded the meteoric poison gang. Lu Ping became more cautious and went several miles into the fallen archipelago. The golden scale sword had already killed 6 or 7 poisonous beasts that were hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to attack Lu Ping. At this moment, Lu Ping's eyes finally saw a small island hidden in the poisonous fog. Lu Ping looked happy. Although this period of flying would not have too much impact on Lu Ping's rich real essence, in this heavenly poisonous poison wall, even the spiritual qi had been polluted by the poison. It was impossible to absorb the spiritual qi to recover. Without replenishment, Lu Ping always felt very uncomfortable. However, just when Lu Ping's feet landed on the small island, a layer of black waves appeared in the dark green grass under his feet. A swarm of black poisonous ants suddenly crawled out of the grass and rushed toward Lu Ping. They attached themselves to Lu Ping's protective gang qi and began to gnaw. Lu Ping's expression changed. The fallen vital energy gang, which had consumed far more real essence than usual, seemed to be unable to persist for a long time under the gnawing of the black poisonous ants. Suddenly, a purple flame lit up on Lu Ping's fingertip. Under Lu Ping's control, the flame suddenly expanded and turned into a wave of fire. With Lu Ping as the center, it swept out in all directions. The black poisonous ants, together with the dark green grass on the ground, were burned clean by the east-rising purple chi flame, revealing the black scorched soil under the grass. Flames were originally one of the means to restrain poison, not to mention the east-rising purple chi flame of the middle-grade east-rising purple chi flame. In the process of the raging fire wave, it seemed that the gray poisonous fog around Lu Ping was burned a lot thinner. Even after Lu Ping put away the flame, he could clearly see the gray poisonous fog around Lu Ping filling up the area that had been burned by the flame. Lu Ping walked toward the interior of the small island. At the same time, he held an upper-grade spirit stone in his hand and operated the cultivation method. The spiritual energy contained in the spirit stone was continuously replenished and refined into real essence. In this area, because it was impossible to directly absorb spiritual energy and refine it into real essence, he could only replenish it through spirit stones. Fortunately, Lu Ping still had more than 400 upper-grade spirit stones. Even if he could only use them to replenish real essence and not cultivate, it was enough for him to support for a long time. After walking a few steps on the small island, Lu Ping's eyes lit up. An ordinary-looking weed-like plant fell into Lu Ping's eyes. 9-leaf grass. This was a rare 3,000-year-old spirit herb, and looking at the age of this spirit herb, it had clearly matured for a long time. Lu Ping bent down to pick it, but his body suddenly stopped. He slowly reached out to grab the 9-leaf grass, but his eyes were not focused on the spirit grass. Just as Lu Ping's hands were about to touch the 9-leaf grass, a piece of black soil behind the 9-leaf grass suddenly turned up, and a mouse-like poisonous beast that looked much thinner than Debeo suddenly sprang out of the soil. It opened its mouth toward Lu Ping's outstretched palm, and a pair of sharp front teeth shone strangely in the gray poisonous fog. Seeing that the poisonous rat was about to bite Lu Ping's palm, he did not see a blue long sword appear in Lu Ping's originally empty palm. The poisonous rat opened its mouth and rushed over, but it was pierced by the netherwater sword. The blue light in Lu Ping's eyes flickered again, and at the same time, regardless of the damage that the poisonous fog might cause to his divine sense, he checked the surroundings again. After finding nothing wrong, he was relieved to pick the 9-leaf grass. The area of this small island was very small, not much bigger than an island reef, and it was located on the periphery of the fallen archipelago, so close to the poison firmament wall. It only took Lu Ping an hour to check this small island. However, on this small island, Lu Ping had harvested 5 or 6 3,000-year-old spirit grasses and more than 10,000-year-old spirit grasses. Lu Ping looked into the depths of the fallen archipelago. Just the periphery had such a harvest, then what kind of harvest would there be if he continued to go deeper? After this idea emerged in Lu Ping's mind, he could no longer resist the urge in his heart. He used the high-grade spirit stone to restore the chi in his body, and once again flew towards another small island in the distance. However, just as Lu Ping flew up, he quickly landed on the island. At the same time, a set of stone armor appeared in his hand. After putting it on, Lu Ping hid in a hidden place on the island. Suddenly, 2 unclear escape lights flashed in the gray poisonous fog. 2 late core forging stage cultivators landed on the island. One of the cultivators asked, "Brother Zhang, did you see it clearly?" The other cultivator nodded firmly. "Brother Lu, there is absolutely no mistake. I did see a flash of spiritual light on this island just now. Don't you believe in the magical power of my eyes? That is definitely a kind of treasure's spiritual light." When Brother Lu heard the words, he cautiously reminded, "Brother Zhang, what if it is a cultivator like you and me?" Brother Zhang grinned. Now that the poisonous fog in the myriad poison sky wall has just been weakened, the cultivators who entered, as long as they have a little ability, are desperately running into the depths of the fallen archipelago. Fortunately, they can find more cultivation resources before the myriad poison sky wall recovers. Except for you and me who are not prepared to resist the poison, only those with low cultivation can wander around the periphery. In that case, What is there to be afraid of? When Brother Lu heard this, his courage couldn't help but rise, but he still smiled and said, maybe our luck is really good. We can find a treasure in the periphery. While talking, the two had already landed on the Laughing Road. When the two walked around the island, they saw the land that was previously burned by Lu Ping with the eastern purple chi flame, and there were many traces of spirit herbs being harvested on the island. Brother Zhang's face was dignified. He threw out a handful of flying needles in his hand, densely surrounding his body, looking like a hedgehog. When Brother Lu saw Brother Zhang like this, he whispered, has someone been here? Brother Zhang nodded and said, just now. There is 80% chance that someone used the heaven and earth spirit fire to burn the poisonous beast, revealing their tracks. We need to be careful. Once we fight with the other party, we need to end the battle quickly. The poison repellent pills we have on us can't last for a long time. Brother Lu opened his mouth, and 2 green lights flew out. One flew around his neck, the other around his chest. The 2 green lights looked like they were going to attack at any time, but it was more like they were protecting themselves. Lu Ping hid in a corner and saw clearly that these two were both 7th-layer core forging cultivators. Apart from the fact that they really didn't have good methods to resist the poison, the most important reason for them to move around the periphery of the fallen archipelago was their low cultivation base. At this moment, one of Brother Zhang's eyes suddenly emitted a red light. Obviously, he was also using a kind of vision magic to look around, but at the same time, Lu Ping was also using the 3 pure true pupils to look for the location of the two. Brother Zhang casually looked around, but happened to see 2 flashing green lights in a secret place. The two looked at each other and were shocked. The golden scale sword in Lu Ping's hand had already cut through the gray poisonous fog and attacked first. Be careful. When Brother Zhang saw that the golden light wasn't rushing towards him, but Brother Lu beside him, he immediately opened his mouth to warn. At the same time, the countless flying needles around him suddenly disappeared in the gray fog. When they reappeared, they were already around Lu Ping under the cover of the gray poisonous fog. A broken small flag appeared in Lu Ping's hand. He waved it, and a stream of light poured down from the top of Lu Ping's head. In the stream of light, a blue jade lotus floated along with the stream of light and bloomed around Lu Ping, blocking all the dense flying needles. Brother Zhang's face changed, and he heard a loud noise around him. When he turned his head to look, he found that Brother Lu was actually hit by the golden sword light and flew dozens of feet away. Who are you? We are just passing by. Let's not interfere with each other's business. Let's stop here, shall we? Brother Zhang thought quickly. Obviously, the other party had a treasure to hide his cultivation, so Brother Zhang couldn't detect the depth of Lu Ping's cultivation. However, judging from the fact that the other party was able to repel his partner, whose cultivation was similar to his, with only a sword strike, the other party's strength was probably not weaker than his. As Brother Zhang spoke, he had already retreated to Brother Lu's side. The two of them joined hands and retreated from the island. Obviously, Lu Ping's sword strike had made the other party afraid, and he didn't want to tangle with Lu Ping any longer. Originally, Lu Ping didn't want to get involved. Although the two of them were at the 7th layer of core forging, their real strength was obviously too low. If Lu Ping fought against one of them, he would naturally have some confidence in winning. However, if the two of them joined forces, Lu Ping wouldn't be a match for them. When the two of them saw that Lu Ping didn't chase after them, Brother Zhang became even more certain that the other party was also afraid of them. In the fallen archipelago, which was covered by the myriad poison firmament wall, cultivators not only had to rely on their own cultivation, but also the boundless poisonous fog around them and the dangers that lurked in the poisonous fog. However, at this moment, an inexplicable color flashed in Lu Ping's eyes, as if he had made up his mind about something. Just when Brother Zhang and Brother Lu were about to hide in the boundless gray fog, Lu Ping's golden scale sword suddenly shone with a golden light. The sword energy that filled the sky pierced through the gray fog, and under the shocked gazes of Brother Zhang and Brother Lu, the two of them were sucked back into the sword light. Chapter 525. Brother Lu and Brother Zhang were shocked and angry at the same time. They didn't expect that Lu Ping would dare to take the initiative to attack the two of them. Arrogant! Brother Zhang shouted fiercely, and the flying needles that were circling around him disappeared once again, but he didn't care about the sword light that was coming at him. On the other side, Brother Lu pushed out the two rays of light that were hovering in front of him. The two rays of light were like two wandering spiders. In an instant, they weaved a huge light net around the two of them, protecting them in the net. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. The golden scale sword light pierced the net of light, but was bounced off one by one. However, the originally shining net of light also became dim, as if it would collapse at any time. Brother Lu controlled the two lights to dance around, trying to repair the light damaged by the golden scale sword lights. His pale face was covered with a layer of sweat. On the other side, when the flying needles around Brother Zhang suddenly disappeared, Lu Ping also disappeared in the gray poisonous mist. Brother Zhang's eyes were constantly emitting a scarlet color as he looked at the poisonous creatures around him. In this myriad poison sky wall, the cultivator's spiritual sense was greatly restricted. Moreover, Lu Ping was wearing a set of magical stone armor, which made it impossible for people's spiritual sense to capture him. Therefore, Brother Zhang had to use his eye technique, hoping to capture Lu Ping's traces in the poisonous mist. However, this time Brother Zhang was disappointed. No matter how he used his eye technique, he couldn't detect Lu Ping's location in the poisonous mist. After a moment, Brother Zhang suddenly thought of something and whispered, "Not good. He is deliberately delaying us. I'm afraid this person has already noticed that we can't stay here for a long time with our cultivation. Once the effect of the medicinal pill is over with our cultivation, we won't be able to last long in this myriad poison skywall. I'm afraid we will be at the mercy of others." Brother Lu looked flustered and said, "Then what should we do? How about we retreat first?" Brother Zhang looked at Brother Lu like he was an idiot. It was obvious that Brother Lu didn't want the two of them to retreat, but he still said helplessly, "Fight as we retreat. We must not let this person tangle with us." After the two of them finished speaking, they quickly retreated toward the myriad poison firmament wall. However, before the two of them could turn around, Lu Ping had already appeared behind them out of nowhere. A golden sword light suddenly shot out from behind the two of them. Brother Zhang's expression changed. He turned around and took out a big umbrella from his storage celestial device. He held the umbrella's rib with his right hand and pushed it outwards. The big umbrella immediately blocked the oncoming sword light. Then, the two of them joined forces and rushed toward the direction of the sword light. Looking at the big umbrella, Lu Ping was quite surprised. Obviously, the defense strength of the big umbrella was beyond Lu Ping's expectation. However, Lu Ping didn't feel that it was difficult at this time, because what Lu Ping needed to do was to delay the two of them. There was no need to rush and attack the big umbrella. Lu Ping's expression changed. He suddenly remembered that he still had an item with him. In a strange place like the fallen Great Archipelago, it might have some unexpected effect. While Lu Ping tried to delay the two of them with the golden scale sword, he touched the golden house on his chest. A jade bracelet appeared in Lu Ping's hand. However, on the crystal-clear jade bracelet, there were a few black sparks jumping and flashing from time to time. This jade bracelet was the fire bracelet of the ice and fire bracelets that Lu Ping gave to Lu Qiner. Unfortunately, Lu Ping didn't have the cultivation method to use this set of magic weapons, and he didn't have the special treasure restriction to upgrade this set of magic weapons. Therefore, he could only use a natural treasure to help control this pair of jade bracelets. This set of magic weapons had always been condensed with only one treasure restriction and couldn't be upgraded further. Now that Lu Qiner's cultivation had reached the peak of the second stage of the core forging realm, she already had the wind and fire wheels refined by Chun Lian as a handy magic weapon. Therefore, the ice and fire jade bracelet was no longer in her eyes. But now, Lu Ping suddenly remembered the black prison poisonous fire that was condensed in one of the jade bracelets. The black prison poisonous fire was a kind of fire seed that was relatively powerful among the natural treasures. Under normal circumstances, this kind of poisonous fire couldn't cause any harm to a late core forging realm cultivator, but in a special place like the fallen Great Archipelago, it was hard to say. As soon as the jade bracelet condensed with the black prison poisonous fire seed was exposed, a black spark suddenly jumped up from the fire ring. However, after this spark jumped up, it didn't return to the jade bracelet. The surrounding black poisonous fog was like a tautai that smelled delicious food, gathering towards the black spark. The spark, which was originally attracted by the fire seed and was about to return to the jade bracelet, suddenly stopped jumping up in the air. Just as the poisonous fog gathered, the bean-sized spark suddenly jumped up violently and the fire became bigger and bigger. At this time, the jade bracelet floating below the spark also trembled. Lu Ping patted the jade bracelet with his left hand, and a black fire seed suddenly jumped out of the jade bracelet. Brother Zhang had been trying to resist the invasion of the poisonous fog and the black fire, but he did not notice that the black poisonous fire and poisonous fog were not only eroding the real essence in his body, but also the poison-dispelling effect in his body was being eroded by this strange poisonous fire. Brother Zhang's face showed a trace of determination, and suddenly fiercely shouted in the direction of Lu Ping, "Your Excellency is so ruthless. The two of us will not let you have an easy time even if we have to self-destruct." Brother Zhang's words made Lu Ping hesitate for a moment. He could hear that Brother Zhang's words were not false, and if he was really forced into a corner and self-destructed, even if Lu Ping was lucky enough to escape, he would not be able to obtain any benefits. Then, what was the point of delaying the two people? However, Brother Zhang did not expect that his words would cause Brother Lu's panicked face to become even paler, and a trace of maliciousness suddenly flashed across his face, and he suddenly slapped Brother Zhang's back with both of his palms. Brother Zhang was caught off guard and opened his mouth to spit out a mouthful of blood. Before he could turn around to ask, a strong force surged from behind, and he was already involuntarily flying in the direction of Lu Ping. At this time, Brother Zhang's heart was full of despair, and he never thought that his partner would actually attack him from behind at such a critical moment. "I still have a wife and child, Brother Zhang. I'm sorry." Brother Lu saw that after Brother Zhang was sent flying, it really attracted the opponent's attention, so he pointed at the two cyan lights that were revolving around him, and the cyan lights suddenly exploded in a direction, blasting open a passage in the black poisonous fog. Brother Lu did not care about the injuries caused by the self-destruction of his life source magic weapon and plunged into the passage to escape. Good. If that is the case, then no one will have an easy time." Kala, a crisp sound, was followed by a muffled poochie sound. Brother Zhang shattered his golden core one after another, collapsing the space in his heart. His whole body's Jin Yuan rushed into his blood vessels, and his blood flowed rapidly. Bright red blood vessels protruded from his skin, and his whole body looked as if it had been fished out from a pool of blood. Self-destruction. How powerful was the self-destruction of a late core forging cultivator? However, at this moment, a golden light flashed again, and even the thick black poisonous fog couldn't block this golden light. Great divine swordsmanship. Under Brother Zhang's desperate eyes, the big umbrella that was on the verge of collapse under the corrosion of the black flames and poisonous fog was suddenly cut into pieces, and the black poisonous fog and fire surged towards him. A pitiful scream came to an abrupt end, and Brother Zhang, who didn't have the time to self-destruct, turned into a pool of poisonous water in the blink of an eye and sprinkled onto the sea surface. Chapter 526. Lu Ping reached out and grabbed the storage bracelet that had fallen into the sea. However, he couldn't retrieve the hundreds of flying needles hidden in the poisonous fog in time, and they all fell into the sea. At this moment, a loud explosion suddenly came from the poisonous mist in the distance, followed by a shocked and angry voice. It was Brother Lu, who had abandoned his partner and friend to escape alone. Lu Ping smiled contemptuously. His figure flashed, and he fled in the direction of the roar. Brother Lu was about to escape. At this time, the antidote in his body had already been exhausted by the black prison poisonous fire. He was only relying on his late core forging realm cultivation to resist the invasion of the poisonous fog. However, Seeing that the myriad poison sky wall was close at hand, a series of strong winds hit Brother Lu's face. Demon race. Brother Lu was, after all, a late-stage core forging cultivator, so he still had good eyesight. With a glance, he could clearly see that there were 6 core forging cultivators in front of him, led by a mid-stage core forging cultivator. The other 5 were only at the early stage of core forging. Under normal circumstances, Brother Lu, a late-stage core forging stage cultivator, naturally wouldn't put these attacks in his eyes. However, at this time, most of his Zhen Yuan was used to resist the erosion of the poisonous fog, and because of the self-detonation of his life source magic weapon, he was seriously injured, so he couldn't exert more than 20% of his strength. As such, he could only watch helplessly as these attacks blocked his way in front of the myriad firmament poison wall. At this time, Brother Lu didn't dare to stay in the myriad poison sky wall for even a moment. At this time, he could feel that the poisonous fog around him had corroded his last layer of protective aura. If this layer of protective aura was broken, he could only abandon his body and use his gold core to reincarnate. Moreover, there was no loud sound of Brother Zhang's self-detonation. Brother Zhang was most likely dead. His heart was even more afraid of Lu Ping. Brother Lu grabbed a handful of talismans from his waist. There were many talisman treasures inside. Obviously, they were accumulated by Brother Lu. Brother Lu threw more than 10 talismans at the 6 people in front of him. Brother Lu's figure flashed and once again rushed towards the 6 people. Talisman treasures were naturally rare protective treasures for blood condensation realm cultivators, but for core forging realm cultivators, their power was limited. Unless they could use the talisman weapons made by Fa Xiang Laozu, they could pose a threat to core forging realm cultivators. Naturally, Brother Lu would not pin his hopes of breaking out of the encirclement on a few talismans. When the dozen talismans and talismans exploded, another magic treasure appeared in Brother Lu's hand. He charged towards the youngest of the 6 Yao cultivators, blocking his way, a little girl. The 6 demon cultivators easily blocked the talismans and talisman treasures flying towards them, but it was already too late to stop Brother Lu from rushing towards one of them. They could only attack Brother Lu with the magic treasures in their hands. Brother Lu ignored the attacks from the others and only attacked the youngest of them, Lu Ling. Lu Ling stood in front of Brother Lu, refusing to retreat even though she was a late core forging realm cultivator's attack. Just as Lu Ling was about to be injured by Brother Lu's magic treasure, a golden sword light finally arrived. Brother Lu, who was almost at the end of his rope, was once again sent flying. At this moment, the attacks from the others also landed on Brother Lu's body, who was sent flying by Lu Ping. The faint layer of light surrounding Brother Lu's body was finally broken by Brother Lu's desperate howls. The poisonous fog surged up and suddenly submerged Brother Lu. Several rays of light flashed from within the black fog. Brother Lu's final struggle was ultimately futile. After the miserable howls stopped, only a pool of blood was left behind, sprinkling into the sea. Lu Ping also grabbed Brother Lu's storage magic treasure in his hand. Then he turned his head to look at the 6 people behind him. Lu Bai, Lu Hai, and Lu Ling struggled to hold up a shield, enveloping Lu Qin'er, Luan Yu, and Lu Dague in it, resisting the erosion of the poisonous fog. Samling was originally a highly poisonous demon beast, so he had a great resistance to the poisonous fog. In addition, when Lu Hai smelted his protective aura, he also used the myriad poison meteorite evil qi. Therefore, after the 3 of them joined forces to hold up the protective aura, although they were not as strong as Lu Ping, they could still barely withstand the poisonous fog. Lu Ping smiled, and the protective aura around his body suddenly expanded, covering the 6 people in his own myriad poison meteorite evil qi. Samling suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Lu Ping took Samling, Lu Qin'er, and Lu Dague into the Golden House, leaving only Luan Yu, who had just smelted the wood attribute low-grade earth step, spiritual wood, and broken through to the middle stage core forging realm. Lu Ping smiled and said, "I didn't expect you to have this kind of magical power. You can see that the anti-poison pills on these 2 people are about to lose their effectiveness." Luan Yu smiled and said, "This is also a risky plan. If you hadn't returned in time, I'm afraid Lu Ling would have been injured by that person." This is a magical secret technique carried in the inherited memory of my Wood Luan clan after I broke through to the middle stage core forging realm. I didn't expect to use it here. Lu Ping knew that the Wood Luan clan's knowledge of spirit grasses could be said to be the best in the cultivation world. If Luan Yu could explore this forbidden area with him, the harvest would be even greater. So, he asked, what do you plan to do? Do you want to return to the Golden House? Or do you want to explore this fallen archipelago with me? Luan Yu shook her head and said, I know what you're thinking. However, although I have a good understanding of spirit grasses, I can't defend against the attack of this poisonous fog. Even if you have the protection of your myriad poison meteorite evil chi, it will drag you down. Not to mention, this time, I heard that the cultivators gathered in the fallen archipelago are all at the late-stage core forging realm and above. If I'm exposed, I'm afraid it will bring you big trouble. Lu Ping knew that Luan Yu was telling the truth, so he could only nod with regret. Just as he was about to put Luan Yu back into the Golden House, Luan Yu took out a jade slip and handed it to Lu Ping. Luan Yu said, this is a compendium of spirit grasses passed down by my Wood Luan clan. You can take it to check if you're missing anything, so you don't miss out on any treasures. Lu Ping's face lit up with joy, but he was a little hesitant. He said, this item is really important to me, but won't this break the rules of the Wood Luan clan? Luan Yu smiled bitterly and said, it's fine. The real inheritance of the Wood Luan clan is how to cultivate spirit grasses. The more spirit grasses you know, the more types of spirit grasses you can find, and the more abundant the spirit grasses in the Golden House will be. This will also be beneficial to my cultivation. Besides, how many people are left in the Wood Luan clan? Maybe after I die, the inheritance of the Wood Luan clan will disappear. Lu Ping took the jade slip and said, brother, you shouldn't be so gloomy. Maybe the hope of the Wood Luan clan to rise again lies in you. As long as you're alive, there will always be hope. Luan Yu didn't want to talk about these things. Just as he was about to return to the Golden House, he suddenly thought of something and said, don't forget about your Wonder Dew. Don't you think the environment of the fallen archipelago is even worse than the Golden Canyon in the seven-star heavens? Lu Ping's eyes lit up. He said, you're saying that the environment of the Wonder Dew is formed in this kind of poisonous place? Luan Yu was a little uncertain. He said, it's just my guess. But at least this kind of environment is very beneficial for the formation of the meteorite poison essence serum. Lu Ping thought back to the time when he was in the Land of 100 Flowers. The Wonder Dew absorbed all the miasma in the Land of 100 Flowers, and in the end, only a few drops of meteorite poison essence serum were formed. The poisonous mist in the fallen archipelago was still above the Golden Canyon. If the Wonder Dew absorbed the poisonous mist here, it would definitely be able to form more meteorite poison essence serum. This was one of the most peculiar and tyrannical water attribute natural wonders. Inside the Golden House, the meteorite poison essence serum and half of the Wonder Dew that were stored in a large bluestone vat had now been placed by Lu Ping in a pool that was specially built with bluestone. The half of the Wonder Dew was somewhat listless as it continued to sink into the small amount of meteorite poison essence serum. After Luan Yu returned to the Golden House, Lu Ping circled around the island and searched the surrounding sea. After finding no traces of cultivators, Lu Ping landed in the center of the island and took out the Golden House that had shrunk to the size of a thumb. Lu Ping had been carrying the Golden House on his chest all this time. Lu Ping tossed the Golden House king into the air, and the thumb-sized Golden House quickly expanded to the size of a house. Then, the door of the Golden House opened abruptly. At this moment, the half of the myriad Wonder Jade nectar in the green stone pond seemed to have sensed something. It abruptly rushed out of the meteorite essence liquid from the bottom of the pond and leaped 3 feet into the air before falling back into the myriad poison liquid. When Luan Yu, who was standing beside the bluestone pool, saw that, a look of joy appeared on her face. She said, as expected, it is effective. This fellow is truly lucky. Naturally, what was happening inside the Golden House could not be hidden from Lu Ping. The moment the half of the Wonder Dew jumped out of the bluestone pool, the gray-colored poisonous mist covering the entire island suddenly shook violently. One by one, they surged into the open door of the Golden House. The commotion caused by this move was much greater than the one caused by the appearance of the black prison poison flames. Suddenly, Wan Yu's exasperated voice rang out from inside the golden house. Not good. I cannot let the Wonder Do continue to absorb the poisonous mist. The spiritual herbs in the spiritual herb garden will be destroyed. Hearing that, Lu Ping was shocked. The golden house was a spatial artifact. Although the poisonous mist was attracted by the Wonder Do, once the poisonous mist permeated the space, the large area of spiritual herbs that Lu Ping had been helping Luan Yu to cultivate over the years would suffer a calamity. Lu Ping hastily slapped his palm on the golden house. An intense blue light gushed out from Lu Ping's palm. It almost dyed the entire golden house blue. Fortunately, the golden house was a spatial artifact that had been meticulously refined by Lu Ping. After Lu Ping poured his real essence into the bluestone pool, he quickly established a spatial passageway between the bluestone pool and the door of the golden house. The poisonous mist that was surging into the bluestone pool passed through this passageway and gathered above the bluestone pool. It formed a pitch-black cloud. The dark cloud became thicker and thicker. It floated gloomily above the bluestone pool. About 2 hours had passed by now. Almost all of the poisonous mist on the island had been absorbed into the golden house. The poisonous mist in the surroundings had become thinner. However, the poisonous mist from the distance was still continuously pouring into the small island. The movement caused by the golden house's absorption of the poisonous mist was getting louder and louder. Chapter 5:27. Seeing that the commotion from the gold house was getting louder, Lu Ping grew increasingly worried. Seeing that the surrounding poisonous fog had thinned out, Lu Ping took the opportunity to quickly extend his divine will out. At the same time, Lu Ping's face grew increasingly pale. Clearly, as his divine will spread out further, the density of the poisonous fog increased and the corrosion on his divine will became more severe. At that moment, Lu Ping's expression suddenly changed, and he quickly retracted his divine will. Ignoring the dizziness caused by the corrosion of his divine will, he quickly wiped away his sweat and pointed at the gold house. The 2 doors of the gold house instantly closed, and the gold house rapidly shrank. Then, Lu Ping grabbed it in his hand and flew towards the depths of the Great Fallen Archipelago. Without the gold house's ability to absorb the poisonous fog, the empty area of the poisonous fog that had formed on the small island was quickly filled up by the poisonous fog from all directions. Not long after Lu Ping left the small island, a few streaks of grayish light flashed within the poisonous fog. A few cultivators with blurry figures landed on the small island, one after another. We've already lost track of him. Looks like the treasure has already been taken by someone else. This person is very vigilant. He actually risked his divine will to check his surroundings. If not for that, he would not have discovered our tracks. I wonder what that treasure is. There are not many treasures that can cause such a huge commotion in the Great Fallen Archipelago's poisonous fog. Could it be the Wonder Dew? The Wonder Dew is the Wonder Dew. I think the few of you only know about the Wonder Dew. 8 out of 10 cultivators who have entered the firmament wall of poisons are here for the Wonder Dew. If the Wonder Dew really appeared at the edge of the Great Fallen Archipelago, why would those Dharma adepts go deeper into the Great Fallen Archipelago? A cultivator who seemed to be the leader reprimanded in a low voice. What these people did not know was that their earlier guess was actually correct. Lu Ping flew for about the time it took for a stick of incense to burn before landing on a small island. After checking the surroundings and confirming that it was safe, Lu Ping carefully picked up the 5 3,000-year-old spirit grasses and more than 20,000-year-old spirit grasses. Lu Ping was still wearing his stone armor. He found a relatively hidden corner of the island, so he wasn't afraid of being discovered by others. Then, he reached out and grabbed the 4 high-grade spirit stones in his hand. He swallowed a medicinal pill and began to restore the Zhen Yuan that he had consumed in the previous battle with Brother Zhang and Brother Lu. Due to the erosion of the poisonous fog, even though Lu Ping had the protection of the myriad meteoric poison gang, the consumption of his Zhen Yuan was still twice as much as usual. Lu Ping had smelted the myriad meteoric poison essence plasma, which was also known as the mother of all poisons. Therefore, one could imagine the situation of the other cultivators in the Fallen Islands. After a long while, Lu Ping finally restored most of the Zhen Yuan in his body. He spread out his left hand, and a small golden house appeared in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping's spiritual sense entered the golden house and found that the myriad wonder jade nectar was suspended in the air above the bluestone pool. It had formed a huge ball of water. Above the myriad wonder jade nectar, the previously thick dark clouds had shrunk to more than half of their original size. Moreover, they were tumbling and flashing with a golden luster from time to time. When Lu Ping's spiritual sense carefully investigated the situation, he found that an invisible aura was being stripped away from the dark clouds and converging towards the myriad wonder jade nectar suspended in midair. Every time an invisible aura was stripped away from the dark clouds, a golden luster would flash within the dark clouds. This process continued for 12 hours. The dark clouds suspended above the bluestone pool had shrunk to a quarter of their original size. Moreover, the dark clouds had also changed from black to a pale golden luster. At this moment, something shocking happened to Lu Ping. The head-sized half of the myriad wonder jade nectar suspended above the bluestone pool suddenly swelled up. Its volume had unexpectedly increased by 10%. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of Lu Ping and Luan Yu, who was standing not far away from the bluestone pool, the myriad wonder dew directly fell into the myriad poison liquid in the bluestone pool like an overstuffed fatty, splashing golden water droplets. After the myriad wonder jade nectar fell into the bluestone pool, the completely golden clouds floating above the bluestone pool seemed to have reached their limit. They turned into golden water droplets and fell into the bluestone pool like rain. The myriad poison nectar, which had originally only been at the bottom of the pool, suddenly increased by a third. Luan Yu stood beside the bluestone pool and looked at the myriad wonder jade nectar in the myriad poison nectar. She muttered, "Sure enough, sure enough." Lu Ping seemed to have been petrified. He sat cross-legged in the corner of the island with a look of disbelief on his face. Soon after, he reacted and a look of ecstasy appeared on his face. The myriad wonder jade nectar could actually form and grow on its own. No wonder Zhao Daoren didn't want to destroy the Great Fallen Archipelago. Although the Great Fallen Archipelago was a dangerous place, it was also a great land of fortune. Lu Ping forcibly suppressed the urge to open the golden house again to absorb the poisonous fog. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the ground and pondered for a moment. Then, he reached out and took out the jade bracelet that had previously smelted the black prison poisonous fire. The black jade poisonous fire had also swallowed a large amount of poisonous fog and had undergone many changes. However, Lu Ping was in a hurry to deal with the two late core forging cultivators, so he didn't have the time to carefully examine it. Lu Ping once again summoned the fire seed from the jade bracelet. The fire seed, which was originally the size of a walnut, had now doubled in size. The pulsating black flame was a lot more lively than before. Even Lu Ping seemed to have an illusion that the black flame seemed to have a trace of intelligence in its pulsation. Could it be that the black prison poisonous fire could turn into a spiritual fire of heaven and earth? This thought only flashed in Lu Ping's mind for a moment. Then, Lu Ping threw it to the back of his mind. After the black prison poisonous fire was exposed to the poisonous fog, it was still slowly absorbing the surrounding gray poisonous fog. However, the movement it made was much smaller than before. As the gray poisonous fog was continuously devoured by the black prison poisonous fire, the fire seed of the black prison poisonous fire doubled in size again. From the looks of it, it was already half the size of a fist. The flames of the black prison poisonous fire also grew stronger. However, at this moment, the gray poisonous fog finally stopped gathering around the black prison poisonous fire. It was as if the black prison poisonous fire had grown to its limit. Lu Ping continued to fly in another direction. Along the way, he encountered several cultivators who entered the Fallen Islands. However, the stone armor on Lu Ping's body made it impossible for them to see through Lu Ping's strength. Both sides were wary of each other. They were also worried that they would fight each other in the Fallen Islands, which was filled with poisonous fog. So, they retreated. Lu Ping deliberately avoided the larger islands and specifically looked for small islands that were not eye-catching. After picking the few spiritual grasses on the islands and confirming that it was safe nearby, Lu Ping opened the door of the golden house and connected it to the bluestone pool. The surrounding poisonous fog once again gathered towards the golden house, forming a black cloud above the bluestone pool, which was much smaller than the previous one. It seemed that the myriad wonder dew nectar in the bluestone pool had eaten and drunk its fill after the huge commotion that was equivalent to triggering a natural phenomenon. When Lu Ping connected the passage again, the myriad wonder dew nectar lazily floated above the surface of the myriad poison liquid from the bottom of the bluestone pool, peeling off the invisible aura of the black cloud floating in the sky. Then, it sank to the bottom of the bluestone pool, motionless. The dark cloud that had turned golden turned into golden raindrops and fell down, flowing into the myriad poison liquid in the bluestone pool. After 3 consecutive times, when Lu Ping once again opened the door of the golden house on a small island, the myriad wonder dew nectar, whose volume had increased by a quarter from its original size, lay motionless at the bottom of the myriad poison liquid. The gray poisonous fog in the surroundings no longer gathered towards the golden house. It seems that it has eaten its fill. Luan Yu stood beside the bluestone pool, looking at the myriad wonder dew nectar at the bottom of the pool. She did not conceal the envy on her face. Lu Ping rubbed his chin, then took out a huge jade essence bottle from his storage ring and threw it into the golden house. Luan Yu saw a jade essence bottle with a big belly and a thin neck suddenly appear above the bluestone pool. Then, the jade essence bottle tilted down. Under Luan Yu's incredulous gaze, a large mass of liquid that was exactly the same as the one at the bottom of the bluestone pool fell from the jade essence bottle and smashed into the bluestone pool. The myriad poison liquid that splashed up almost fell on Luan Yu. Luan Yu was so frightened that she retreated and cried out in alarm, "Myriad wonder dew nectar! How can you still have myriad wonder dew nectar? Moreover, it's an entire portion of myriad wonder dew nectar. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible." Lu Ping chuckled and did not answer. This portion of myriad wonder dew nectar was a treasure that Lu Ping had stolen from Aou's ice dragon cave when Lu Ping had ventured into the deep-sea demon domain by himself. Lu Ping had always treated it as his own secret and had never told anyone about it. Luan Yu calmed herself down with great difficulty and said, "You don't have to worry. If I were to reveal this secret of yours, do you know how many Laozus from the Eastern Sea would come looking for you? This is the myriad wonder dew nectar. Each drop of myriad wonder dew nectar in the hands of an alchemy grandmaster is equivalent to a 30-year longevity pill. In the cultivation world, how many Dharma Laozus are there? How many drops of myriad wonder dew nectar are there? Not to mention that you already have more than 1.5 portions of myriad wonder dew nectar." Lu Ping was outside the House of Gold, but he could naturally hear Luan Yu's words. Lu Ping smiled and did not say anything. Luan Yu's thoughts were clear. There were some things that did not need to be clearly explained to him. After a complete portion of myriad wonder dew nectar reappeared, it quickly fused with the myriad wonder dew nectar at the bottom of the bluestone pond. The gray poisonous mist around the small island once again roiled and gathered towards the House of Gold like a tsunami. Fortunately, this time, Lu Ping was prepared. The gray poisonous mist only gathered for the time it took for an incense stick to burn before he decisively closed the House of Gold and fled in a certain direction. After doing this 6 times in succession, Yang Kai had only spent 2 days searching for a suitable island and confirming whether the surroundings were safe or not. The wonder jade nectar in the bluestone pond was no longer able to gather the gray poisonous fog, and the volume of the wonder jade nectar had increased to 3/4. As for the golden myriad poison nectar in the bluestone pond, it had filled 3/4 of the entire bluestone pond. Chapter 528. After entering the Great Perilous Archipelago, Lu Ping had been deliberately avoiding the high-leveled cultivators there. Instead, he would find some smaller islands to rest his feet. That way, although Lu Ping's harvest of spiritual herbs was limited, he would not encounter too much danger. After Lu Ping had carefully fed himself with the 10,000 Wonder Dew from the Cyan Stone Pool, the half-filled portion of the 10,000 Wonder Dew had grown to 3/4 of a portion. Add the portion that Lu Ping had obtained from Aou. Lu Ping had unknowingly obtained so many of the treasures that the entire world of cultivation would flock to. At that very moment, Lu Ping could still vividly remember the frenzy caused by the one drop of the 10,000 Wonder Dew back in the auction house. There were 24 drops of the 10,000 Wonder Dew, and Lu Ping possessed a total of 42 drops of the 10,000 Wonder Dew. At that moment, Lu Ping was standing on a small island, listening to something. After a while, Lu Ping nodded his head. Both his hands formed a seal and a golden-colored light shone out from Lu Ping's chest. The light transformed into a golden-colored door before Lu Ping. The door slowly opened and a boy and 2 girls walked out from the door. They were 3 children, around the age of 8 or 9. After coming out from the golden house, the 3 children sat down cross-legged beside Lu Ping. Lu Ping, on the other hand, had already activated the myriad meteoric poison's energy shield to envelop Samling. Samling stretched out a small palm each to place it upon the golden-colored shield formed by the myriad meteoric poison's energy shield. Next, the surrounding poisonous mist slowly surged towards Lu Ping's shield. After being filtered by the myriad meteoric poison's energy shield, Samling absorbed the poisonous mist for his cultivation. At this moment, Lu Bai's body was shrouded in a cyan mist. This was the wind poison that Lu Bai had separated from the poisonous mist absorbed by Lu Ping's myriad meteorite origin Gang Qi. After Lu Bai absorbed the wind poison, apart from enhancing her own talent, it was also greatly beneficial to the growth of her cultivation. In addition to Lu Bai, Lu Hai and Lu Linger also tamed the poisonous mist bit by bit through Lu Ping's myriad poison meteorite astral dipper, and then separated the poison that was useful to them, and then absorbed and cultivated. Among the Samling, Lu Hai was the one who cultivated the fastest through Lu Ping's myriad meteoric poison's energy shield. Because Lu Hai also cultivated a water attribute cultivation method, which was the same as Lu Ping. Not only did he receive guidance from Lu Ping during his usual cultivation, but he could also gain a lot from Lu Ping in the process of condensing his shield. At least, Lu Hai's shield had condensed the myriad meteoric poison's energy shield, Kuei water essence, and other 4 kinds of water attribute heaven and earth strange objects. Among the Samling, his shield was the first to be accomplished. Although Lu Hai also condensed the myriad meteoric poison's energy shield, his Zhen Yuan could not be compared with Lu Ping, and his cultivation had only reached the peak of the first level of core forging realm. He could not withstand the erosion of the poisonous mist on the fallen archipelago alone. However, after Lu Ping used his own shield to filter the poisonous mist, he was the one who cultivated the easiest. Lu Linger was originally the youngest sister among the Samling, and also the one with the lowest cultivation among the Samling. However, after Lu Ping obtained the Ice Dragon Pearl from Ao Wushuang and let Lu Linger integrate many inheritances of the Ice Dragon clan, Lu Ling's cultivation had caught up. Now, she was not much worse than Lu Hai, and was only 1 step away from breaking through the 2nd level of core forging realm. As a result, Lu Bai, the eldest sister among the Samling, became the one with the lowest cultivation. However, Lu Ping would not favor one and discriminate against the other. Among the Samling, only Lu Bai liked swordsmanship, and Lu Ping's most convenient means of fighting the enemy was swordsmanship. Although Lu Ping cultivated swordsmanship of the water attribute, after Lu Ping's swordsmanship reached the level of great divine power, he had a wider range of other swordsmanship. Many swordsmanship could be comprehended by analogy, so it was more than enough to teach Lu Bai. Not to mention that Lu Ping also passed on the Merry 18 swords of Xianling sect that he obtained from Liang Xianfeng to Lu Bai. The Merry 18 swords was an authentic swordsmanship of the wind attribute. The only pity was that Lu Ping had only figured out a small divine power level swordsmanship. As for the cultivation method of the great divine power level swordsmanship, it was taught orally by Xianling sect's cultivators, so Lu Ping did not know. In the future, whether Lu Bai could comprehend the great divine power level swordsmanship through this swordsmanship would depend on her own aptitude and hard work. Therefore, although Lu Bai was still far from advancing to the 2nd level of core forging, if the Samling were to fight against each other, Lu Bai would be the strongest one. Lu Ping supported the myriad meteorite poison energy gang for the Samling to cultivate, which was extremely serious to Lu Ping's own true essence. This was also Lu Ping. If it was another cultivator, even if their cultivation reached the late stage of core forging, they would not be able to bear such a severe true essence consumption. Samling was a green sea snake. Poison was their talent, and it was even closely related to the growth of their cultivation. If it was not for the fact that the poisonous fog was a mixture of many toxins, and the toxicity was far from what the Samling could bear with his current cultivation, even if Lu Hai had also condensed the myriad meteorite poison energy gang, he would still not be able to bear it. This fallen archipelago could be used as a cultivation holy land for green sea snakes. However, now that there was Lu Ping's myriad meteorite poison energy gang to filter it, and Lu Ping was watching from the side, the Samling did not have such concerns and began to concentrate on cultivating. Lu Ping smiled bitterly and once again held 4 high-grade spirit stones in his hands and began to accelerate his cultivation. Although this still could not catch up with the speed of the true essence consumption in the body, it could more or less prolong the cultivation time of the Samling. Due to the request of the Samling, Lu Ping had to temporarily give up the exploration of the fallen archipelago and closed himself in this remote island for 3 days in a row. On this day, the figure of Lu Hai, who was cultivating, suddenly shook, and the surrounding spiritual qi began to accelerate towards him, along with the poisonous fog entangled with the spiritual qi. Lu Ping looked at this scene and was suddenly taken aback. The movement of this moment almost caught up with the situation when the dark prison poisonous fire was just taken out. Lu Ping had also consumed a lot of the true essence in his body in the past 3 days. If he encountered the erosion of such a thick, poisonous fog again, he was afraid that he would not be able to hold on for long. Fortunately, Lu Hai's breakthrough was already a foregone conclusion. Lu Ping formed several seals in his hands and shouted, "Collect!" A golden beam of light suddenly covered Lu Hai, and Lu Hai suddenly disappeared in the light beam. At the same time, on the small, lonely mountain in the Golden House, in the palace that Lu Ping came from the clear stream cave, Lu Hai suddenly appeared in one of the cultivation rooms. At the same time, a series of 36 high-grade spirit stones and hundreds of middle-grade spirit stones appeared in the cultivation room, and a spirit gathering formation was arranged around Lu Hai. This was not the end. The small, lonely mountain in the Golden House also had a kind of effect of sealing spiritual qi. Lu Ping usually put the Golden House on the spiritual vein of Huangli Island. He wanted to seal all the rich spiritual qi in the spiritual vein that was not used in the spiritual vein in the small, lonely mountain for emergencies, so as not to waste it. At this time, it just came in handy. As Lu Ping cast a few hand seals, the entire mountain suddenly trembled. The spiritual energy that was sealed in the mountain in the past suddenly spread out from the mountain. The density of the spiritual energy was no less than that of a small spirit vein. At this time, Lu Linger had also reached the edge of the breakthrough. Lu Ping also took her into a secret room in the Clear Stream Palace. Although Lu Bai still needed a period of time to break through the second level of core forging realm, the absorption of wind poison had obviously reached a saturation level, so Lu Ping simply took Lu Bai into the secret room for closed-door training. In this way, Lu Ping arranged a spirit gathering formation for each of them. In each secret room, a formation equivalent to a small spiritual vein was opened. A total of 3 people cultivated. At this time, Lu Hai had already completed the breakthrough and began to consolidate the results of the second level of core forging realm. Lu Ping paid attention to the state of the 3 people in closed-door training. He knew that in this year and a half, Samling would not be able to come out to help him. However, Lu Ping still felt pain for using more than 100 upper-grade spirit stones in the blink of an eye. Before the auction, Lu Ping still had 1,700 upper-grade spirit stones. After the auction, there were only more than 400 left. Now a quarter of it was gone. Spirit stones really flowed like water. Lu Ping shook his head and sighed. He suddenly remembered that he still had the storage artifacts obtained from Brother Lu and Brother Zhang. He did not know what kind of harvest these two would have. Although the two were not strong and only dared to appear in the periphery of the fallen archipelago, they were still 7th-level core forging realm cultivators. They should have some wealth. Lu Ping had just taken the storage artifacts of the two people in his hand. His face was shocked. His eyes were like blue lightning, looking into the depths of the poisonous fog beside him. Without saying anything, Lu Ping stood up and fled out of the island. As soon as Lu Ping left the small island, a voice came from behind him. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? May I know what kind of treasure you've obtained? Can you tell me? I'm willing to exchange it for an equivalent value. Although the person's tone was sincere, he did not slow down at all. His previous attempt to sneak up on Lu Ping failed. Now, while saying equivalent exchange, he quickly caught up. Lu Ping had to leave. Previously, he supported Samling's cultivation for 3 days. Although he had the upper-grade spirit stones to supplement his cultivation, Lu Ping still consumed more than half of the Zhen Yuan in his body. This was definitely not the time to argue with others. Moreover, after Lu Ping noticed the person behind him, although it was only a glimpse, Lu Ping still felt a strong Zhen Yuan fluctuation from the person behind him. Obviously, this person was an 8th-level core forging realm cultivator. At this moment, Lu Ping was no match for him. Equivalent exchange? Who are you trying to fool? If this person had good intentions, he would not have approached Lu Ping in such a sneaky manner. Thinking of the vibration of the poisonous fog caused by Lu Hai's breakthrough, Lu Ping secretly scolded himself for being careless. Previously, Lu Ping already knew that once there was a large-scale gathering of poisonous fog in the Fallen Archipelago, it mostly meant the appearance of some treasures. Previously, in order to feed the Wonderdew nectar, Lu Ping spent several days constantly changing the place where he absorbed the poisonous fog in order to not attract the attention of other cultivators and cause trouble. Now, he stayed on the island for 3 days in a row. It was only when Lu Hai's cultivation broke through that he attracted attention, which was already considered lucky. However, in fact, at least Brother Lu's collection disappointed Lu Ping. Lu Ping rummaged through the storage bracelet in his hand with some disbelief. 70 or 80 upper-grade spirit stones, a few bottles of cultivation pills that Lu Ping was not interested in, 20 or 33,000 years old spirit herbs, and more than 100,000 years old spirit herbs, a few inconspicuous magic weapons and 2 broken magic weapons, and a pile of spiritual materials. Lu Ping rummaged through, but did not even see a second-class variant spiritual material. These things, in addition to the upper-grade spirit stones and the 1,000-years-old spirit herbs, Lu Ping generally threw them into the sect's warehouse for the younger generation disciples to practice with. Lu Ping looked at the remaining 2 jade boxes with some disappointment. He hoped that these 2 jade boxes would bring him a trace of surprise. Lu Ping tore off the spirit sealing talisman on one of the jade boxes. After opening it, a soft sound of wind came from the box. Finally, there was a treasure that could make people's eyes light up. Otherwise, Brother Lu's status as a late core forging realm cultivator would be too low. A fist-sized silver-white stone appeared in the jade box. After Lu Ping opened the jade box, a soft sound of wind came from the silver-white stone. It even made people feel as if a breeze was caressing their faces. Wind attribute heaven and earth strange stone. This treasure was just right for Lu Bai to use to refine a small protective spirit ability. Lu Ping admired this strange treasure. Currently, Lu Ping's 7-treasure Thunder Gourd had reached a bottleneck. If he couldn't condense the 4th spiritual treasure restriction and advance to a spiritual treasure, then he wouldn't be able to refine heaven and earth strange treasures to enhance the treasure's power. Therefore, this treasure would first benefit Lu Bai. With this treasure as the foundation, Lu Ping's previous disappointed expression finally recovered a little. He opened the 2nd jade box with a little hope. Looking at the thing inside the jade box, Lu Ping simply didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wind attribute low-grade profound level heaven and earth spirit treasure, whirlwind feather. Lu Ping should be happy about the appearance of a spirit item, but the whirlwind feather was one of the lowest-grade spirit items, so Lu Ping really didn't think it was worthy of his attention. Low-grade profound level heaven and earth spirit treasure, what use could it have? Which early core forging realm cultivator would refine a low-grade profound level heaven and earth spirit treasure in order to advance to the mid-core forging realm? At the very least, Lu Ping's martial sisters and junior brothers would never use this treasure. Lu Ping felt a little helpless as he put the whirlwind feather into his storage ring. In any case, it was still a heaven and earth spirit treasure, wasn't it? Although the cultivation world of the East China Sea was rich, it wasn't that there were no poor people. At least, Brother Lu, a dignified late core forging realm cultivator, only had such a small amount of wealth. This made Lu Ping feel very disdainful. It was a pity that Brother Lu's two self-detonated spiritual treasures were the only and most valuable treasures that Brother Lu had. With Brother Lu as an example, although Lu Ping knew that Brother Zhang's wealth might be better, Lu Ping didn't have much hope. Sure enough, after Lu Ping put away more than 100 high-grade spirit stones and more than 100,000-year-old spirit grasses, there was another pile of junk in Lu Ping's eyes. Although there were two good magic treasures, Lu Ping reluctantly picked one and threw it to Lu Dagui. Samling and Lu Qiner both had magic treasures that Lu Ping had specifically asked Qin Lian to refine for them. Dagui advanced to the core forging realm, so Lu Ping didn't have time to prepare a magic treasure for him. So, he had to find one for him to use first. Brother Zhang's cultivation pills were more authentic for late core forging realm cultivators. Lu Ping took them out and identified several kinds of pills that were suitable for Lu Ping to use now, so Lu Ping put them away. In addition, there were 4 jade boxes, which looked more exciting than the 2 jade boxes in the storage magic treasure. Lu Ping casually opened one of them and found a water spirit bead inside. The water spirit bead was a second-grade mutated water elemental spirit material that could be used to forge water elemental mystic treasures. However, a mere second-grade mutated spirit herb was kept in a jade box by a late core forging realm cultivator. Lu Ping couldn't help but curse inwardly. However, this water spirit bead attracted Lu Dagui's attention after Lu Ping took it out. The previously sleepy giant tortoise suddenly opened its half-closed eyes, startling Lu Qiner, who had been talking non-stop. Lu Dagui suddenly stood up and turned into a burly young man. He asked Lu Ping, "Master, can you bestow this spirit bead to Dagui?" Dagui feels that this spirit bead is the most suitable to refine his own magic treasure. Lu Ping asked curiously, "Dagui, do you also have inherited memories? You actually know how to refine a magic treasure?" Lu Dagui shook his head and said, "This subordinate doesn't have any inherited memories. That's something that only top demonic beasts have. This subordinate just soaked in the quenching pool for a long time. When I was cultivating, a profound essence water spirit bead actually formed in my core space. Although the water spirit bead in Master's hand isn't mutated by the profound essence heavy water, it's similar to the water spirit bead in this subordinate's core space. This subordinate feels that this water spirit bead can also be used." Lu Ping looked at Lu Dagui with some surprise and asked, "You usually soak in the white jade lotus pond to cultivate. Don't you have a Xian Yuan water spirit bead?" Lu Dagui shook his head and said, "Master, the essence of Xian Yuan water is a rare treasure. It can't be refined into a magic treasure, but Dagui has used it to refine my protective aura qi." Lu Ping patted his head and said, "I forgot about this, but I didn't expect you to have such a fortuitous encounter. I'll give this water spirit bead to you to refine. As for what kind of natal mystic treasure you can refine, that will depend on your luck." Lu Dagui smiled foolishly, but the joy in his eyes was even more intense. After receiving the water spirit bead, he swallowed it in one gulp. Then, he turned into a black tortoise and lay on the ground motionlessly. This time, he was completely asleep. Lu Ping simply put Lu Dagui into the golden house and threw him into the quenching pool to let him cultivate by himself. Then, he opened the second jade box. What made Lu Ping speechless again was that the second jade box still contained a second-class variant spiritual material. Fortunately, this spiritual material finally seemed to be a little special. It was actually a magic treasure with wind and fire attributes, which was rare. When Lu Qiner saw this thing, she immediately ran over and circled around the jade box. Seeing that Lu Ping's face was still expressionless, the anxious Lu Qiner finally couldn't help but say, "Brother, I want this spiritual material. If I want to advance my wind and fire wheels to a psychic magic treasure, this spiritual material is just right. When Lu Ping saw that Lu Qiner was still so impatient, he suddenly laughed. When Lu Qiner saw Lu Ping's appearance, she immediately knew that Lu Ping was deliberately teasing her. "So," she said in a spoiled manner, "brother, how can you bully your little sister like this?" "I don't care. Little sister's heaven and earth spirit treasure to advance to the mid-core forging stage will fall on you. Moreover, it must be a wind and fire attribute type of heaven and earth spirit treasure." Lu Ping felt a burst of headache. This kind of dual attribute heaven and earth spirit treasure was the most difficult to find. Previously, at the auction, the gold and water attribute mid-grade earth spirit treasure, jade flowing goblet, was even more valuable than ordinary earth-grade earth spirit treasures. It could be seen how rare this kind of heaven and earth spirit treasure was. With great difficulty, he sent the talkative girl, Lu Qiner, to the golden house to bother Luan Yu. Only then did Lu Ping open the third jade box. Soft water. The water attribute heaven and earth spirit treasure was also a kind of treasure to smelt the protective aura qi. The protective aura qi smelted by this kind of strange thing was the most flexible, which was the opposite of the kuei water essence. The protective aura qi smelted by the kuei water essence was the most rigid. The two complemented each other and could achieve a combination of hardness and softness. Unfortunately, Lu Ping had now smelted 6 layers of protective aura qi. Before his cultivation broke through to the late core forging stage, he could no longer smelt the 7th kind of aura qi. Moreover, the amount of soft water was not enough for Lu Ping to smelt aura qi. After Lu Hai consolidated his cultivation, he would smelt this strange thing for his protective aura qi. Lu Ping also had some regrets. Chapter 530. Soft water was one of the most suitable water attribute treasures for Lu Ping to smelt his protective aura qi. Unfortunately, the quantity was too little, and Lu Ping could no longer smelt it due to the limitations of his cultivation, so he had to leave this treasure to Lu Hai. Lu Ping shook his head and tossed the little bit of regret to the back of his mind. Then, he focused his attention on the last jade box. Originally, Lu Ping thought that there should be a spiritual treasure in this box, but he didn't expect that there was another treasure inside. Moreover, this treasure was changed to 100 Waves Sand, which was another treasure with water and earth attributes. Not finding a treasure that he could use, Lu Ping was somewhat disappointed, but this kind of dual attribute treasure was rare. Previously, Lu Ping had obtained a second-class mutated spiritual material of wind and fire attributes, which made him quite happy. He didn't expect to get another dual attribute treasure after advancing. For people who needed it, this was really a rare treasure. Unfortunately, there was no cultivator who practiced water and earth dual attribute cultivation method around Lu Ping, so Lu Ping could only keep this treasure for the time being. After leaving the cave house, Lu Ping passed several small islands in succession, but found that the spirit grasses growing on them had been picked by others, and the methods used to collect the spirit grasses were different. Obviously, they were not from the same person. It seemed that during the few days when Lu Ping was recovering his true essence, more and more cultivators came to the fallen archipelago. Lu Ping looked at the traces of collecting spirit grasses on the island. He floated in the air and thought for a long time. Then he flew deeper into the fallen archipelago. Along the way, the spirit grasses on the islands that Lu Ping passed had been collected without exception. On the way, Lu Ping also encountered several cultivators who were appearing in the fallen archipelago. Both sides maintained restraint and silently gave way to each other. For such a long time, Lu Ping never met a cultivator who entered the fallen archipelago again, but the spirit grasses on the islands that he occasionally met had already been picked up. Lu Ping couldn't help but be vigilant. It seemed that Lu Ping had now left the periphery of the fallen archipelago and began to go deeper. Sure enough, after a while, in the gray poisonous fog, Lu Ping vaguely saw a huge black shadow. When he got close, Lu Ping, who was flying in the air, saw that this huge black shadow was a medium-sized island. Lu Ping landed on the island. As he walked toward the island, his eyes flashed with blue light, looking for some spirit grasses growing on the island. At the same time, he killed all the poisonous beasts that rushed from all corners of the island. After collecting several kinds of spirit grasses in succession, Lu Ping thought that no one had visited this medium-sized island, but he saw traces of spirit grasses being collected in an open space not far away. Lu Ping's expression changed several times, as if he was thinking about something. Then, as if he had made up his mind, he continued to walk toward the island along the traces of spirit grasses being collected. In the center of this island was a blackwater swamp. When Lu Ping reached the edge of the swamp, the blue light in his eyes shone brightly again. Looking into the swamp, he vaguely saw several figures standing in an arc above the center of the swamp. Just as Lu Ping withdrew his gaze, a majestic divine thought suddenly appeared. Before Lu Ping could take any precautions, the divine thought was withdrawn as soon as it touched the swamp. A slightly old voice came from the swamp. "Since you are here, why don't you come out and meet me?" Lu Ping pondered for a moment and looked at those faint figures for a moment. Then he walked toward where the people were standing from the Blackwater Swamp. This Blackwater Swamp hid all kinds of poisonous insects, poisonous fish, poisonous mosquitoes, poisonous beasts, and poisonous weeds. As Lu Ping walked through the swamp, from time to time, all kinds of poisonous insects and poisonous beasts would attack Lu Ping. However, they could not break through the myriad poison meteorite energy around Lu Ping's body. From time to time, poisonous insects would even be eroded to death by the stronger poison of the myriad poison meteorite energy. As Lu Ping walked closer, he saw 6 people forming a large half-circle, surrounding a grassland in the middle of the swamp that was paved with black grass. When Lu Ping looked at the grassland, he found that the surrounding poisonous fog was slowly converging towards the center of the grassland. Moreover, the gathering poisonous fog was getting thicker and thicker, and the scope of its influence was also getting larger. Seeing Lu Ping walk out of the poisonous fog with such ease, the expressions of the 6 people changed. Suddenly, 6 divine senses came from all directions and oppressed Lu Ping. Each of these divine senses had reached the level of a late-core forging cultivator, and they faintly carried a faint pressure. Facing the pressure of the 6 divine senses, Lu Ping was startled at first, but his expression did not change. A divine sense that was not inferior to any of the 6 people's divine senses suddenly burst out from Lu Ping's body, pushing away the 6 divine senses from Lu Ping's body and firmly guarding around Lu Ping, resisting the other 6 people. The 6 divine senses of the fallen archipelago retracted. Lu Ping already knew that this was just a test. The poisonous fog in the fallen archipelago was quite corrosive to divine senses, so Lu Ping also retracted his divine sense. He walked straight to the empty half of the circle, formed by the 6 people. The 7 people formed a circle in the middle of the grassland, but no one else could come and get a share. After Lu Ping stood still, a short cultivator laughed. It was the cultivator who had invited Lu Ping. He only heard him say, "Fellow Taoist, please don't blame me. It was just a test. If fellow Taoist's cultivation is not high enough, you are not qualified to join." Lu Ping did not answer Cultivator Minor Repairs' words, he just nodded calmly. The 6 cultivators originally wanted to test Lu Ping's strength through the pressure of their divine sense. After all, Lu Ping was wearing a stone armor, so it was impossible to detect his cultivation. However, what they didn't know was that, in fact, according to cultivation, Lu Ping was really not qualified to stand together with the 6 people. However, they used the method of probing with their divine sense, and Lu Ping's divine sense was extraordinary. At this time, his divine sense was no weaker than a late-core forging cultivator. This made the others mistakenly think that Lu Ping was also a late-core forging cultivator like them. However, what made Lu Ping somewhat confused was how the short cultivator discovered him when he was at the edge of the swamp. It must be known that Lu Ping was wearing a divine sense armor that could avoid the detection of cultivator's divine sense, and the short cultivator Minor Repairs' divine sense had clearly captured his movements. However, although Lu Ping was quite hesitant in his heart, he could not ask. This was obviously Cultivator Minor Repairs' divine sense. If Lu Ping opened his mouth and asked, he would offend this person for no reason. At this time, More and more poisonous fog had gathered in the grassland, forcing the 7 people to retreat half a zhang in order to avoid the increasingly thick poisonous fog that was eroding their true essence. Lu Ping cupped his hands to the surrounding cultivators and said, "May I ask what the treasure in this grassland is, and how long will it take for it to be unearthed?" The other 5 people still looked indifferent. Only the short cultivator minor repairs said with a smile, "No one knows this. We were actually attracted by the poisonous fog that the grassland here constantly breathed. Whenever this happens in the Fallen Archipelago, there is a high chance that some treasure will appear. However, if we want to know what treasure it is, we have to wait for the treasure to mature and appear in front of us. If it is unearthed in advance, it is very likely that the treasure will not be able to mature. Therefore, after the 6 of us arrived one after another, none of us made a move." Lu Ping nodded and said no more. Unexpectedly, cultivator minor repairs asked, "When fellow Taoist first arrived, the gang qi around your body flashed with golden light. Many poisonous insects and ants around were poisoned to death by your gang qi. Could it be that the gang qi that fellow Taoist refined is the legendary myriad poison meteorite power gang?" The words of cultivator minor repairs made the other 5 cultivators around look at Lu Ping. The myriad poison meteorite power gang was a gang qi that was refined from the myriad poison liquid, known as the mother of all poisons. It could be said that it was truly invulnerable to all poisons. In the Fallen Archipelago, a famous poisonous forbidden area in the cultivation world, the cultivators who had refined the myriad poison meteorite power gang were undoubtedly like fish in water when exploring. In an instant, Lu Ping could feel the eyes of the surrounding cultivators full of curiosity, surprise, and greed. Lu Ping looked at the short cultivator minor repairs meaningfully and said with a smile, "Your Excellency was able to discover my tracks just now, which surprised me quite a bit. However, I wonder how Your Excellency's divine sense can still be used freely under the erosion of this gray poisonous fog. If Your Excellency is willing to tell me your secrets, I will not go too far. I am willing to tell you the trick of resisting poison. What do you think?" Lu Ping's words caused the surrounding cultivators to turn their attention to the short cultivator minor repairs. The short cultivator minor repairs gave a hollow laugh and said, "Fellow Taoist, you must be joking. We should pay attention to the treasures in this grassland. The gathering of the poisonous fog seems to have reached its limit. I fear that the treasures will appear soon." Lu Ping smiled and also looked at the center of the grassland. At the same time, he was also secretly on guard. Once a dispute arose over the ownership of the treasures, Lu Ping's true cultivation would immediately be exposed. At that time, Lu Ping was afraid that he would become the target of public criticism. At this moment, the second cultivator on the right of Lu Ping with a slender figure and a fair complexion suddenly said, "Don't be in a hurry. We should first discuss how to distribute the treasures when they appear. There is only one treasure, but there are 7 of us. If we can't distribute the treasures, we will inevitably have to fight for them. At that time, it would be a small matter for others to take advantage of it, but if some of us are accidentally injured, it would be very bad." Everyone nodded, but they still had their own small calculations in their hearts. At this time, the short cultivator minor repairs said, "Since this fellow Taoist has seen the problem, do you have a solution?" The slender cultivator nodded and said, "This one is only making a suggestion. Whether it succeeds or not depends on everyone." The short cultivator minor repairs seemed to have volunteered to be the representative of everyone. Hearing this, he hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoist, please speak." The slender cultivator looked at him and said, "If the treasures can be distributed, we will naturally divide them into 7 equal parts. However, the order of selection will be in accordance with the order of first come, first served." The slender cultivator then looked at Lu Ping. Lu Ping was the last to arrive. If the distribution was like this, Lu Ping would naturally be the last. If Lu Ping was unwilling, then the slender cultivator's plan would probably not work. Naturally, Lu Ping was not that stupid. At this time, if he had any objections, he was afraid that he would immediately be attacked by everyone. Thus, he stood there without changing his expression, as if tacitly agreeing to the cultivator's proposal. Seeing that Lu Ping had no objections, the short cultivator minor repairs asked again, what if the treasures cannot be divided? This was the question that everyone was concerned about. Chapter 531. What if the treasure can't be divided? This was the question that many cultivators were concerned about. The tall cultivator also knew that this was the key question. He pondered for a moment and said, in my opinion, if there is only one treasure or not enough for 7, then the treasure will be divided according to need. However, the person who gets the treasure will have to convert the value of the treasure into spirit stones or pills and then distribute it to everyone. What do you think? Everyone was silent for a moment, then they nodded one by one. Obviously, they had agreed with the tall cultivator's distribution plan. But at this time, Lu Ping interjected, I don't have any objections to converting them into spirit stones and medicinal pellets. But if the spirit stones are only mid-low grade, then don't take them out. It'll save everyone an awkward situation. Lu Ping's words caused the other 6 to fall silent. But when they thought about it, it made sense. After reaching the late core forging realm, the impure spiritual energy contained in low-grade spirit stones was no longer attractive to cultivators. Only high-grade spirit stones could benefit their master's cultivation. At this time, the short cultivator, minor repairs, also said, that's right. If you don't have enough spirit stones or pills, then give the treasure to others. The tall cultivator also nodded, obviously thinking that Lu Ping's proposal was reasonable. The others also didn't raise any objections. In this case, even if some people were reluctant because of lack of spirit stones, they couldn't speak out against it. Otherwise, they would be ridiculed in vain. At this moment, the surrounding gray poisonous fog gradually began to calm down, and the thick poisonous fog began to slowly disperse. Everyone's face lit up. The treasure was obviously going to be unearthed soon. Gulyulu. The sound of boiling water came from the ground. Everyone's expression didn't change, but their eyes all flashed. This sound sounded like the sound of flowing water. Obviously, it was more likely to be a water attribute treasure. In this way, it could be divided into 7 parts, and no one would get anything. At some unknown time, the soil in the center of the grassland gradually sunk, and a pale blue liquid shone from the ground. Lu Ping looked at the pale blue liquid and narrowed his eyes. At this moment, the short cultivator, minor repairs, was pleasantly surprised. Yuanqing liquid. This is a good thing. Hearing this, everyone else's faces lit up with joy. Yuanqing liquid was also a kind of heaven and earth strange object, and it was a water attribute heaven and earth strange object suitable for Lu Ping. This kind of heaven and earth strange object was not used to smelt protective aura qi, but it was suitable for Lu Ping to practice 3 pure true pupils. Lu Ping's 3 pure true pupils had only smelted 4 kinds of water attribute heaven and earth strange objects, and then it had not increased anymore. However, whether it was seeking danger or fighting with others, 3 pure true pupils were of great help to Lu Ping. So Lu Ping was also looking for water attribute heaven and earth strange objects suitable for washing spirit eyes, but unfortunately, he had not found it. The pool of Yuanqing liquid on the grassland flickered with green light, causing everyone to be somewhat silent. After a moment, the short cultivator, minor repairs, finally smiled and said, in that case, we will divide this pool of Yuanqing liquid equally. If everyone trusts me, let me first collect this pool of Yuanqing liquid, and then divide it equally. What does everyone think? Everyone looked at each other and took a step back. Then, the tall cultivator and the cultivator on the other side of the short cultivator, minor repairs, each took a step to the left and right, just in time to let the short cultivator, minor repairs, be surrounded by the 6 people. The short cultivator, minor repairs, smiled bitterly. Obviously, everyone did not trust him. While they agreed to let him collect the Yuanqing liquid, they also had to guard against him escaping alone. The short cultivator, minor repairs, walked in front of the pool of Yuanqing liquid and formed a simple water spell with both hands. Lu Ping's eyes shone with green light, and the surrounding people also carefully watched each and every movement of the short cultivator, minor repairs. As the short cultivator, minor repairs, used his water spell, The yuan-qing liquid immediately gathered into an irregular ball of water and floated into the air. The short cultivator, minor repairs, took out 7 jade bottles from his storage magic tool, and the 7 jade bottles flew in front of him. The short cultivator, minor repairs, stretched out his right index finger and carefully drew 6 lines at the ball of water in the air. The ball of water was immediately divided into 7 neat balls of water and then fell into the 7 jade bottles. The short cultivator, minor repairs, kept one of the 7 jade bottles, and the other 6 flew to the other 6 people. After Lu Ping and the others examined their respective jade bottles, they put them into their storage magic tools. The short cultivator, minor repairs, let out a long sigh of relief, returned to his position and said, "Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you." Seeing this, the tall cultivator said, "Since the treasure is in hand, I will take my leave first." With that, a cloud appeared under the tall cultivator's feet and enveloped him. When the cloud dissipated, the tall cultivator had already disappeared into the poisonous mist. With the tall cultivator taking the lead, the others also left one after another. Lu Ping looked at the short cultivator, minor repairs, and saw him also turn and leave. Lu Ping pondered for a moment, then also turned and flew out of the swamp. A moment later, the 7 cultivators left one after another. After about the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, a dim light cut through the gray mist and landed on the grass. After the light disappeared, the cultivator that appeared was the short cultivator, minor repairs. The short cultivator stood on the black grass and cautiously scanned the surroundings with his spiritual sense. However, his expression immediately changed. He looked in the direction that the tall cultivator had left and said, "I didn't expect you to be so cautious. You actually didn't leave." A figure walked out of the gray fog step by step, and a voice said, "If you leave, won't the treasure be taken by you alone?" The short cultivator watched as the tall and slender cultivator walked out of the gray mist and said, "Since you've discovered it, I'm afraid it's impossible for me to take it for myself. Since that's the case, how about we split the treasure evenly? The rules were set by you just now." The tall cultivator smiled somewhat mockingly and said, "Are you so sure that I am willing to share the treasure with you and not fight with you to take it for myself?" The short cultivator laughed and said, "Since you are so confident, you must have held back when you tested each other. However, how can you be sure that I don't have a trump card? Besides, I fear that no one has gone far at this time. If you are not sure that you can kill me in one blow, then you will inevitably attract the attention of others. When that time comes, how can they not know what happened here?" The tall cultivator laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "That is true. In that case, you can take out the treasure and we will divide it equally." As soon as the tall cultivator's voice fell, the short cultivator's expression suddenly changed again, and he turned to look at the gray mist on the other side. Another voice came from the direction that the short cultivator was looking at. "Your spiritual sense is really strange. Although it is not as vast as other cultivators, it is much more condensed than ordinary cultivators. That is why you can persist in this gray mist for a longer time without being eroded." A figure leisurely walked out of the gray mist. It was Lu Ping who had left earlier. When the tall cultivator saw Lu Ping suddenly appear, a look of surprise flashed across his face. At this time, the short cultivator's expression became somewhat unsightly. He said, "You have good eyesight. To be able to see through the secret of my spiritual sense, I presume that your spiritual sense is not weak. However, I am curious as to how you can be sure that there is still a treasure buried here." Lu Ping smiled mysteriously and said, "This is not something that outsiders should know." The short cultivator snorted coldly and said no more. However, the tall cultivator next to him said thoughtfully, "Since you are also aware of the secret here, then there are now 3 people who want this treasure. To avoid undue delay, I think we should first take out the treasure and then use the previous method to ask for it. The person who obtains the treasure will then compensate the other 2 according to the value of the treasure. What does everyone think?" Lu Ping didn't even think about it and said, "Very well." The short cultivator was unwilling, but when he saw the 2 people looking at him, the short cultivator's heart suddenly jumped. He clenched his teeth and said, "All right." After saying this, the short cultivator minor repairs struck the small pool where the Yuan Qing liquid had appeared. Bang! A muffled sound rang out, and a pit 10 feet deep appeared in front of the three people. "So it is this thing." Lu Ping looked at the blue boulder at the bottom of the pit and suddenly said, "What do you know about this?" "I can only see that this boulder is a second-class metal attribute spirit material, but I don't know what it is." The tall cultivator was happy to see the boulder at the bottom of the pit, but then he became somewhat puzzled. After hearing Lu Ping's words, he quickly asked Lu Ping for advice. The short cultivator minor repairs obviously didn't know much about this boulder, so he immediately looked at Lu Ping with an inquiring gaze. Lu Ping hesitated for a moment and seemed reluctant. But in the end, he said helplessly, "You two should know that after a spirit item loses its spirituality, it will either become a third-grade spirit material or become a heaven and earth oddity. Of course, most heaven and earth oddities are born naturally, not born from a spirit item." The short cultivator minor repairs and the tall cultivator nodded when they heard this. Lu Ping then continued, "But do you two know that this Yuan Qing liquid was originally a spiritual object? After losing its spiritual nature, it was nurtured by the fallen archipelago and became a natural oddity?" The short cultivator and the slender cultivator looked at each other in astonishment. It was clear that they hadn't heard of such a strange matter. The slender cultivator thought for a moment and said, "Does your esteemed self mean to say that before the origin azure liquid was successfully nurtured, it was originally a worldly spiritual item, and this second-grade metal attribute spirit material was affected by that worldly spiritual item?" Lu Ping nodded and said, "Exactly." The short cultivator minor repairs looked at the boulder that was half the height of a person and said with some uncertainty, "To be able to mutate such a large piece of or into a second-class spirit material, this spiritual object must have been at least an earth-class spirit material." Lu Ping nodded and said, "Exactly. This spiritual object was originally a low-grade earth-class heavenly gang golden liquid. Although it was a metal attribute spirit material, it was in a liquid state. This is why after losing its spiritual nature, the heavenly gang golden liquid became a water attribute spiritual object. Of course, among the 5 elements, metal gives birth to water is another reason." When the short cultivator heard Lu Ping's explanation, he became somewhat impatient and said, "Since you already understand, then let's talk about how this boulder should be divided. In my opinion, this ore is more than enough to refine 3 metal attribute magic treasures. Moreover, it will be easy to upgrade it to a spiritual type magic treasure in the future. How about the 3 of us divide this boulder equally?" The tall cultivator was already somewhat disappointed when he saw that it was only a second-class mutated spirit grass. When he heard the short cultivator minor repairs' words, he shook his head and said, "I don't cultivate a metal attribute cultivation method. This ore is useless to me." Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, "I have 2 juniors who cultivate a metal attribute cultivation method. Now that they are about to advance to the core forging stage, they are about to refine their life-bound magic treasures. Since you don't want it, how about this boulder? Please appraise it. I will give you 2 high-grade spirit stones." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.